Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Road America. It is the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region SCCA June Sprints. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Tom O'Gorman, and we've got a full weekend, full 3 days or 2.5 days of coverage for you here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hi, Greg. Happy to be back with you. It's been a while.
It has. And I am happy to be back with you as well at what should be just a glorious weekend of racing and the best that the SCCA has to offer until we get here once again in the fall for the National Championship runoffs. But first up here this afternoon, we're going to have a full day or full half day of qualifying for you. 25 minutes of qualifying for 6 of our 9 race groups. We're going to finish that qualifying up tomorrow morning, and then we go racing. First on the docket here, Tom, is Spec Miata.
Yeah, this is a complicated weekend, I think, because this is basically the closest thing to the runoffs that any of these drivers will get to do. They get to even run a full-length race, 45 minutes on Sunday. But as you may have alluded to, the first bit of today has been very, very wet, just about drying out. These cars haven't been on the racetrack for, what is it, close to 6 hours plus.
Or so, yeah.
So it was supposed to be 2 qualifying sessions to set the grid for the first of those 2 races. Now it's basically 1. So the pressure is on not only to get a good lap, get your space, find your teammate to work with, etc., but also get it done early, I think, because we've seen in the past that it is at risk of going full course yellow and interrupting sessions, especially with 30-plus cars in this group.
Indeed, Tom. So as the track is starting to dry out, and temperatures here quite warm, quite humid, that it is about 75 degrees out at the moment. But the track's still just drying out. There are a couple of damp portions of the track, especially when you come under the trees going into turn 11, what everybody knows as the kink, as our racers are coming underneath the Mission Bridge here. They'll be heading into that area. Now, something that we do a little bit differently here for qualifying is we use our timing line and start-finish just coming out of Thunder Valley, turn 13, before you come back out onto the front straight. And that's so that our racers can get to the pit lane a little bit more easily and not have to have an entire cool-down lap. And that way we can keep this session moving along. And as you mentioned, Tom, because it had been raining this morning, and more or less, I think probably the first 7 of our 9 race groups that had qualifying sessions this morning did it under damp conditions. This is what is essentially this session is what is going to set the grid for our first race of the weekend, a 25-minute sprint race. Our Spec Miata racers should be taking to the track right around 9:45 Central Time tomorrow as they get the green flag now and are starting their first flying lap here of this 25-minute qualifying session.
Oh boy, some of them are, but a whole lot of them are over on the straight between turns 3 and 5, that moraine sweep. A huge pack of cars, at least 10 deep, maybe closer to 15 or 20, are
we see them right
delayed coming to the track. Yeah, and that was a big talking point in qualifying during the runoffs last year because they got in the way. Cars doing this strategy got in the way of cars that had already started their flying laps. They have to be very careful about that because that did net some penalties. And as you talked about the track, the other big change from last year's events or any other year's events to this year is all that grass creep that you see on the runoffs here at the physical runoff of the racetrack on the outsides of a lot of the corners. That's new for this season. It's effectively just concrete pavers buried in the grass so the grass can stick through it, but it does cut down on the amount of dirt and dust flying. It cuts down on the loss of control that a lot of cars might experience if you do go off the racetrack, and it also opens up the radius for these corners in a big way in some places. So drivers have probably not really gotten a chance to experiment with that if it's wet. It's a little bit risky behavior unless they've been here at some other time since the opening rounds of the season, maybe back in April. That's something to get used to here at Road America as well.
Yeah, so we had the grass creep here on the exit of the kink right here over at turn 11 last year. There was no grass growing through it as there is now. But as you said, it's going to keep the amount of dust and dirt flying through the air and be able to keep those sight lines open much more easily through the corner. but indeed, I mean, there's still a good amount of concrete out there that could open that corner up, maybe another 3-4 feet for some of these drivers in case they do get it wrong, but they can also turn in a little earlier there as well. As we do have our first racers starting to put in their flying laps here, and Tom, their out laps, and this shouldn't be much of a surprise, their out laps are actually very much in line with what the very fastest laps were during the morning qualifying session for these racers, as I think Matt Dirks was the first racer to come out of Thunder Valley, turned it a 3:08.5. Danny Stain is our provisional pole sitter coming into this session, as we've got a driver, it looks like, off and disabled right before, or actually right after, where we've got the checkered flag, or the timing line, and we'll get the number on that car in just a moment. But the provisional pole time is only a 3:02.4. I would expect that that's going to drop probably as our racers go into their second flying lap.
Yeah, that's going to get demolished. The track record in Spec Miata, not that this counts for the races only, 2:41.4, so they were over 20 seconds off pace. I do think that being fast in the rain is one of the most important and best skills that you can have in a race car, so shout out to Sean Varwig for that provisional pole time in the number 02. Danny Stain was second, Ken Sutherland third, and we had Tyler Brown fourth, and this is Kyle Greenhill, I believe, in fifth. That was your top five, so shout out to them. I mean, these times are going to all get shaken up, but Quick in the Wet deserves its flowers, in my opinion. But I also think that car disabled. Look, we're full course yellow already, Greg. The cars are going to have to throw this lap away. What a complicated session, a very, very intense series of circumstances in the race car. You just have to stay cool as a driver and hope that it comes to you. The opportunity to put a clean lap in comes to you.
Yeah, and so, Tom, besides the car that we had off on the side of the track over just past our corner 13 station coming up into the final corner, it sounds like Ryan Busk in the number 7 car may have had an issue as well and run off track. And I think that trying to track using our electronic system where he is located at the moment here, but as soon as I do, we'll let you know. But it sounds like we've got 2 disabled cars out there, as again, we're going under full course caution. It shouldn't be a very difficult move to get that one car that's over by turn 13 off the track. He's right at that access road, and they're just going to pull him straight back and pull him away, so that'll clear up. It's just a question of where that other car may be, and it sounds like it may be far enough off the track that they don't want to worry about him.
Yeah, kind of best case scenario for that.
Yeah, and Tom, we are getting word now that they are going to go to a black flag situation to bring all the drivers down the pit lane. And it sounds like actually the 7 car may have already actually been towards the very end of the pit lane, and it was just disabled there. But again, we're going to a black flag situation here early on. Our cars will come down the pit lane. We currently have about 16 minutes remaining in this 25-minute qualifying session. But Tom, given that these racers essentially had their out lap, how much does it affect them, do you think, as they come down the pit lane? They're obviously not going to have a lot of heat in the tires and what have you. They're pretty much going to be starting from scratch when they head right back out, right?
Exactly right. And the tires would have just been kind of getting into the window. These Spec Miata drivers having to use the same set of tires all weekend long. So they've basically got nothing on these sticker sets of tires. I'm guaranteeing most of the drivers came with a sticker set at least. But that would be really interesting if you don't get the opportunity to get a really good lap. I mean, a perfect world here in Spec Miata, you find 1 to 3 teammates to work with, 3 people that you're comfortable with maximum. You find them on the pit lane. You go out together and you get your own space once kind of nobody's around you, and then you can use maybe 3 of those first laps on the sticker cycle on these Hoosier racing tires to put your laps in. You don't have to think too much about it. Now that's been disrupted not only with a rain session, but also with a black flag early on in this second qualifying session. The opportunity to strategize the way that I just described is closing quickly. That door is shutting very, very quickly. You just got to kind of make it work at this point. There is plenty of time to make it work, but it can again be so stressful in the car especially if you're not already where you wanted to be in this session. Your opportunity to get there is kind of out the window. You just got to make it work.
All right, so our provisional pole sitter at the moment, that being said, Tom, is Matthew Dirks with a 246.611. So he has managed to beat that time that Danny Stain set just this morning. Second fastest, Shane Sullivan out of Neenah, Wisconsin. Jonathan Davis out of Wadsworth, Ohio. Your top three with Brett Kowalski out of Ruidoso, New Mexico. He is currently fourth fastest with Johnny Morrow coming up from Pompano Beach, Florida, in the number 72 machine. He is fifth fastest at the moment as we are under black flag conditions. Why don't we do this, Tom? Why don't we, as we're actually now getting close to midway in this race group, why don't we take our break, and when we come back, hopefully we'll be ready to go back to qualifying here at Road America. It is the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. Don't go away.
Okay, track Okay, track Okay, track
What does it mean to be built with Summit? It means you're hitting the autocross, drag strip, road course, trail, dirt, or open road with confidence. Because built with Summit means you're using parts from the top names in performance, priced to make your project affordable. And it's all backed by trusted tech expertise and blazing fast shipping. Summit Racing Equipment. Let's build it together. SummitRacing.com.
Did you know SCCA members can save $20 on every track night they sign up for? That's right. Track Night in America, driven by Tire Rack, now hosting 150 events at more than 30 tracks across the country, is the easiest and most affordable way to get you and your friends on track in street cars all year long. Visit tracknightinamerica.com to learn more and get yourself on track.
It's the 2026 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, the premier amateur road racing series bringing together top SCCA road racers from around the country. The Hoosier Super Tour visits some of the greatest tracks in North America, showcasing each of our 25 championship classes, production to GTs, prototypes to Formula cars. The Hoosier SCCA Super Tour packs a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing action into every event.
It's the 71st consecutive SCCA WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tom O'Gorman. We're currently under black flag conditions here in Elkhart Lake, Road America, the National Park of Speed, during our first afternoon qualifying session, and apparently having some tire wall repair being done, I believe, down by Canada Corner, Tom. But why don't you tell us a little bit, as we've got all of our drivers lined up, given that they haven't really put in any laps here under these conditions and maybe haven't been able to really feel out, how this track has changed, if not from this morning. We know it's obviously different than this morning, but from what they probably had yesterday when the sun was shining, and before the rains that we had last night washed a lot of the rubber off the track. What's kind of your mindset going into the remainder of the session like this?
I think right now it's a combination of staying calm in the race car, obviously sitting here kind of on ice, just waiting for the opportunity. I'm guessing that most, if not all of them, did not get a lap that's representative of what they can do. So they're all going to know that. But also just sort of visualizing the best case scenario for what this session can be at this point and doing your best to make that happen. So, some of the cars right here at the very front, I think that might actually be our former provisional pole sitter Sean Varwig at the front of the line. That whole group that waited to go out, they actually ended up at the front of the line. So for them, they can visualize, okay, we're going to get some clear racetrack. We can get the cars back into the window, get the tires up to temperature. It's not as much stress involved there, but if you're towards the back, there are certainly key corners that you need to make sure that you have clear space for. And there's also just the realization of where the start line is, where the timing line is. You mentioned it's over at turn 13 instead of the front straight. Right here is where you start and finish the qualifying laps on the racetrack. So again, you don't have infinite control over what you can do in this session at this point, but you can visualize the best case scenario. As long as you get one clean lap, maybe 2 or 3 laps into the run, that's the best case scenario.
All right, just got word from race control. It sounds like they're going to try to get these cars back out on track within the next 3 to 5 minutes, may even be a little bit less than that, as we've got those emergency teams that were doing the repairs down by Canada Corner coming back home here. So we should have a free and clear track. And there it is, actually. That is the number 7 car, as we thought. And I believe we're going to be sending the cars back out. And here we go, Tom, back to qualifying.
Maybe enough time for 3 full laps if you don't dilly-dally at the resumption of this session. 7.5 minutes to go. And I think this outlap can basically count as your first lap in getting the tires where they need to be. A lot of times you might take that time to be a little bit more chill on the tire, bring them up a little bit slower, and then knowing that first lap probably doesn't matter that much. You're going to get 2, 3, 4 more. At this point in the session, you don't know how many you're going to get. You got to just push hard from the drop at the resumption here. Also want to shout out hello to our YouTube live chat, live stream. Thanks for joining us online. See you there and keep up with, we love to call them our associate producers, Brian Belansky. I don't know. Did you coin that or did Brian coin that?
Brian. I'll give him credit.
We even have some of the corner workers keeping the tabs on the live chat when the track was cold. So that's cool to everybody tuning in. Thanks for joining us. And then, of course, trackside, hello as well.
All right, so again, Matthew Dirks, currently your provisional pole sitter, Shane Sullivan, Jonathan Davis, your top 3 with Brett Kowalski, Johnny Morrow, Christopher Jerem, Michael Carter, Chip Drago, great to see him back here in Wisconsin, Alfredo Sedan, and Sam Nagosek as well. And if we're lucky, we might have some in-car video from the number 47 car from Nagosek. We'll see if we can bring that up. If not, hopefully. And apparently we don't have that video available to us, says our director, Jordan Worth. So we'll keep here as racers now coming underneath what used to be the Speedville Bridge and heading into the kink. Danny Stain trying to pick up, looks as though he might be trying to keep there with Michael Carter in the 08 machine. Carter returning to the Super Tour after a number of years away, some time on the pro circuit, and good to see him back racing with us again. He's out of the Atlanta area, I believe. He's this is Savannah, Georgia now. I believe he was Atlanta when he was much younger, when he was in his late teens. Here as our racers are coming up. Tom, it even makes you sound old, right?
Dang. Shots fired. Catching strays, Greg. Dang.
I know. Well, as we were discussing before we went on air, I've been here for all 70, for the previous 70 iterations of the Chicago Region WeatherTech June sprints. Here we go, as the racers are now coming up the line, starting what will be their first flying lap after this restart. And again, that bogey time at 2:46.611, which should definitely be achievable if we can keep the rest of this session clear and clean, as we've got about 4.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Next up, just to keep you all informed, and I probably should have been calling them to the grid. Ooh, I've already let the world down, Tom, because I haven't played the tones. Formula 6, Formula F, and Formula V, our next qualifying group, as they are scheduled to be on track right around 2:40 today. So actually, let me do that right now. Attention the paddock, first call for race group number 2, Formula 6, Formula F, and Formula V racers. Please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. Race group number 2, Formula 6, Formula F, and Formula V. Please head to the grid.
The Sector 1 complete here on the second attempt to get this qualifying 2 session in the books for Spec Miata. There are 4 sectors plus a speed trap this weekend. Sector 1 is just at the braking zone for turn number 5, and now we're working our way through Sector 2, which takes us all the way to the exit of the kink, a very short sectors 3 and 4. Sector 3 takes us to the qualifying start-finish line, and Sector 4 from that exit of turn 13 back to the start-finish line. So we can kind of keep an eye on the sector times to get an idea of who might be worth watching, but there's going to be so much churn, I think, every time they come across the start-finish line. That live timing, by the way, on SCCA.com should be the top link if you just click on that live link. If you want to watch what we can see. Just keeping an eye on this top group has been very much nicely in line, especially that 5th car back, the orange and silver machine. That's actually dropping back from the release of the pit lane to try to get a bit of a draft on that 4-pack just in front. I think that happened during this lap, so that might be a bit of a throwaway lap for, I think that's Sean Varwig, and then Danny Stain has really lit the wick. He's pulled away from the cars that he was in the line with all during this lap. Purple sector 3 for him, but Sean Varwig does go back to the top of the board at the very first lap by 52 thousandths of a second until Wyatt Couch comes across the start-finish line. It's going to be Couch, Matthew Dirks in second, Sean Varwig third, Danny Stain fourth, Tyler Brown fifth, and Tom Brown sixth. I saw the 2 Browns working together.
The Angry Mooses, yes.
Yeah, but it's very, very, very close. Now Brett Kowalski jumps up into second. Michael Carter jumps to fourth. That drops the Browns down from 5th and 6th to 7th and 8th. Andrew DeVoto and Jim Drago will round out the top 10 on this first lap. I think all the front-running cars, meaning the cars at the start of at the front of the line, are going to get 2 more laps. No, they're not. This is probably their last lap.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is with only a minute 45 left on the clock. I think even the first drivers that had crossed past turn 13 likely are only going to be able to complete this lap. You mentioned Andrew DeVoto, who is now sitting in 9th position. He was the winner of the 2023 CAT Majors, which is a part of the SCCA U.S. Majors Tour. This was back in 2023. I think the Milwaukee region runs that event, and it's about a month or so after the June sprint. So again, DeVoto with a lot of experience here, as well as you wouldn't expect it, as he lists his hometown as being in Montana. But we'll see if he can move up through the order, as he's right behind the 2 Browns out of Muskego.
What is it? You plate a car that might not be street legal anywhere else in Montana?
In Montana. Exactly. That's it. It's all a tax ploy.
Right. Just kidding. But I had misidentified these cars. So that front group, all Angry Moose machines, the number 09 is the yellow and silver, leading the pack. And then it's the 02 of Sean Varwig in the black and white, the blue and white. The blue and silver is the 27 of Tom Brown there towards the front. And then the 07 is Tyler Brown. The 42 is the car that was just a little bit further back that I had misidentified that car. is Kyle Greenhill. Now getting a big push from Danny Stain, who has a huge moment at the kink. Holy cow, the back end entered first,
not just a push, but a huge wiggle. Oh my gosh, as the car loaded and unloaded each side of the car. Oh my.
The critical moments finishing the final sector of this second lap. These drivers only get 2 full qualifying laps in the drive for the June sprints here. Coming across the start-finish line for all to play for. Tom Brown takes it to the provisional pole for just a split second. Danny Stain takes it to the top then by 0.8 of a second over the rest of the field. That is incredible. Tom Brown to second, Tyler Brown to third, Andrew DeVoto up to fourth, Sean Varwig to fifth. Wyatt Couch had led that first lap all the way down to 6th now, and none of these drivers have been able to create much difference towards the back of the pack until Michael Carter just comes across up to second, Brett Kowalski to third, the Browns down to 4th and 5th, DeVoto down to 6th, Varwig, Couch, Greenhill, and Dirks become your top 10 with just a couple cars left to finish their second qualifying lap. Man, that was like Formula One levels of pressure here.
Indeed it was, with only about a second separating our top 10 drivers, Tom, and perhaps the largest gap in those top 10 racers, our pole setter Danny Stain with over 0.2, almost a quarter of a second on Michael Carter and the rest of the field. But from there, Brett Kowalski only 9/1000ths of a second back from Michael Carter. A little bit further between Tom Brown and Tyler Brown, who are currently 4th and 5th. 5/1000ths of a second. Tyler Brown and Andrew DeVoto actually put in identical lap times over 4 miles, 2.4 or 2 minute 44 second .175, and then Sean Varwig was only 0.08 of a second back from there. Another 0.07 for Wyatt Couch. Kyle Greenhill only 3/1000ths of a second back, and then Matt Dirks only 0.06 of a second off of that time. So close right here at the front of the field. And I've only given you the top 10. Jim Drago was 0.6 off of is 11th fastest, 0.6 back from, but from there, again, just mere hundredths of a second separating so many racers. All right, so that is going to wrap things up for Spec Miata. Let's make another play with the awful tones here. Formula 6, Formula F, and Formula V racers, please head to the grid. Your qualifying session starts next. Formula 6, Formula F, and Formula V, please head to the grid. All right, Tom, why don't we do this? Let's take another break, and we'll come back here with more qualifying action. It is the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints here from Road America. Don't go away.
Mazda's been very supportive of racers within the SCCA and all the other grassroots organizations for many, many years. Really, their support for racing and our type of racing is unmatched from any other manufacturer. They've been a great partner for many, many years.
Mazda, hands down, is the best company to work with for sports car racing. Factory support is second to none. It just feels right. You feel connected.
It is the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints here at the National Park of Speed, Road America. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Tom O'Gorman. And next up, it's the first of our open wheel qualifying sessions this afternoon. It is Formula F, Formula V, and Formula 600. And Tom, we were just marveling at the sheer number of entries that we have. I think somewhere along the lines of 40, somewhere around 46, 47 racers heading out on track here as part of this session. And we've got a number of national champions and former national champions in the field.
Yeah, I love to see this. It's actually our second largest race group by registrations. We have 15 in Formula 6, 17 entries in Formula F, and 21 in Formula V, which is awesome. It does mean that track space in this session will come at a bit of a premium, but a 25-minute qualifying session after a wet session this morning, it's plenty of time to get time in the books as long as the session stays green. But I do think that that kind of knowledge that the track could go yellow or black flag at any moment with only this session available to you does add the pressure here this afternoon.
Yeah, and my mistake, because my math is so horrible, I think as you read down the numbers in each class, I think that comes out to 53.
Yep.
I borrowed producer Brendan's fingers and toes to get to those numbers here. Fastest of our drivers on track, and we'll just go and give it to you by class here. Over in Formula F with a 2014 Miguel out of Warrensville, Illinois. Ethan Tovo, the fastest of your Formula F drivers, with David Ibarra out of Louisville, Texas, second fastest. They were separated by about 2.2 seconds, and again, very wet this morning. However, Ethan Gonzalez out of Fulshear, Texas, was your third fastest driver. Over in Formula 6, or F6, in his Nova car, Jason Martin out of River Grove, Illinois, is your provisional pole sitter, with Calvin Stewart, two-time national champion out of Novi, Michigan, second fastest. Keith Joslin out of Grand Island, New York, third fastest. And then in Formula V, Steve Whitston out of Georgetown, Texas, your fastest driver on track, with a qualifying time of 2:59.5. Then it was Brian Farnham at a 3:03 flat, and then Mark Farnham at a 3:05.424. So we'll be tracking those drivers as they come through. As looks as though we certainly have our first drivers starting their first flying laps here, and as I alluded to, Tom, a number of national champions in the field. James Wida in his Formula, if we just even look at Formula 600, we've got James Wida, we've got Sven de Vries, Cal Stewart, who we talked about a little bit earlier as well. Over in Formula V, of course, we've got Steve Whitston, who is, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure somebody will, but I think Steve Whitston is our defending national champion in Formula V. Is that correct? Somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, I'm sure. No, actually, it's Alex Scaler. Foolish me. I should have. I knew I had that wrong. Alex Scaler is your defending national champion. But a lot of defending champions in the field there as well in Formula V as well as Formula F. And,
yeah, Formula V. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, always a family affair. You mentioned the Farnhams, the Whitstons. We've got Hunter Phelps-Barron in that field. We've got Chris Jennerjohn's always towards the front. I think there's 4 Whitstons. We've got Zach. We've got Steve. We've got Ron. So lots of cars to watch in Formula V. This is still early stages, lots of sorting happening, and just kind of talk about the way the cars interact with one another. Formula F and Formula 6 will make very similar lap times, but in totally different ways. The Formula 6 cars tend to be quite a bit quicker down the straights. The Formula F cars tend to be maybe a little bit quicker in the corners. And you can tell just from the track width of those cars, the Formula 6s are so narrow. They're just little rocket ships in a straight line, but not a lot of help in the corners by aero or by suspension, really. And then the Formula F's about twice as wide. They'll carry a little bit more speed through the corners. Drafting will help the Formula F's, and then drafting, it's super high value in Formula V. But the V's are going to be, I would guess 15 to 20 seconds a lap slower. I'm going to pull up the track records and fact check my butt dyno here. Formula F, a 2:21, Formula V, a 2:40. So yeah, right at 19 seconds difference between what we anticipate will likely be the fastest to slowest. And then Formula 6, actually the track record, a 2:18. So they're even quicker here.
Yeah, and so another one of our entries, I believe, as you mentioned, Hunter Phelps Barron being in the field here, Tom. Hunter was, I believe, a rookie. I remember seeing him back, I think, in 2020. And he ran, I don't think he has run on the national scene since the 2021 runoffs at Indianapolis. And he now is here running this weekend. And I think he's in an ex-Skip Streets car, if I remember correctly. That car being the runoffs, the runner-up at the 28 runoffs. Let's try that again. The 2018 runoffs at Sonoma. I can't put a sentence together here because I think I had too much bratwurst for lunch. Sorry.
Got bratwurst brain.
That's it, exactly. Want to thank the fine folks at the Gearbox here at Road America for that.
Ooh, one car over at turn 6, bailing off into a couple cars bailing out this lap, actually. One at turn 6, one here at the kink. Both drivers doing an excellent job to disappear into the best place that they can, given the options, and especially good choice to disappear there at the kink, because once you enter the kink, there's really nowhere to disappear until you exit Canada Corner. It's the worst spot on the racetrack to end up stranded. So that was heads up driving from that driver in the blue and white machine. But we do have first laps in for most of the field. Second laps coming in quick. Cal Stewart is your current provisional pole sitter by 38 thousandths of a second over Jason Martin, effectively a tie there at the top of Formula 6. Dimitrios Konstantinidis in Formula F has the top time by 100th of a second, even closer there over Ethan Tovo and David Ibarra. Then we have in Formula V, Zach Whitston is the top runner there by a 10th and a half over Brian Farnham. Steve Whitston sits third. But I think we still have so much time in this session. These cars will take quite a bit of heat in the tires to get into their happy window, just with some momentum. And it looks like even more cars struggling with something early in the session, a handful already to pit lane.
And, Tom, interesting that you should mention they're over in Formula 600 with Cal Stewart and Jason Martin being in such close proximity here. I believe, I have to go back and look, but I'm fairly certain that they finished first and second at the runoffs at VIR back in, I guess, was it 2023? It was either 22 or 23. Yeah, indeed it was. Cal Stewart taking the win over Jason Martin, Keith Jocelyn finishing in third. And the margin of victory, because I remember what a close race it was only a 10th of a second at the line, and we see them there as they go down into turn 5, either working together or at least with Martin trying to keep a grip on what Cal Stewart is doing on track.
Still lots of jockeying as well. James Wida, by the way, did go to the top of Formula 6 while we were chatting. David Ibarra is now your top car in Formula F over Ethan Tovo. Those cars both out of the Cahill Motorsports group. And Zach Whitston still holds that top spot. Actually got confused. I don't remember which Whitston was at the top, but it was still Zach Whitston at the top, the 127, now over Chris Jenner, John, and Mark Farnham. But I do think, especially with that first qualifying session being wet, you mentioned it quickly at the top of this session that all the cars gridded up by the lap times in that wet session, which means they were just all over the place as far as Formula V's towards the front, Formula 6's towards the back. It really is kind of worst case scenario for resuming this session. It results in this type of stuff, big dive up the inside from a Formula F on a Formula V at the kink, which is always a sketchy maneuver, even though it's probably pretty easily flat out for both of those cars. Side by side makes it sketchy, and the visibility of the cars around you is so difficult, which is kind of a constant conversation in the formula groups.
All right, so we do have a local caution Tom, currently being displayed for Keith Jocelyn in the number 55 Formula 600 Scorpion. And just coming up underneath the Corvette bridge, we can see him there right up against the wall, driver's right. And so we do have that section there with the local caution. I know it's not showing up in our electronic system, but Jocelyn grew up racing hydroplane boats and snowmobiles on water, grass, ice, and asphalt, and of course snow. I don't understand snowmobiles on water, but apparently, I guess taking that experience and moving it over to a Formula 600. But it looks like his qualifying session is now done. Let's check in with the Formula Vs here, Tom, where we do have a large group of racers working the draft currently, and I believe that may be. I'll have to see. I think that might be Simon Stallings, Mike Lawrence, Andrew Whitston in that group as well, with Hunter Phelps Barron and Brian Farnham. And Zach Whitston now goes to the top of the leaderboard in Formula V with a 246.136. Farnham at a 246.287. Chris Jennerjohn, another 0.4 of a second back from there, and then Simon Stallings.
Just about everybody in Formula V is on a green sector, a bunch of sectors, which means personal best for them. Purple sector is not going to happen in Formula V because they're on track with faster cars. So we'll keep an eye out for purple sectors out of Formula 6, maybe Formula F. But you're right, all that group in Formula V, running basically nose to tail. Most of the top 10 is all together on the racetrack. Whoa, 3 wide at the kink as some Formula 6s coming through on some Formula Vs. And for the Formula Vs, again, a perfect session. Looks like you link up with your teammate and you use them, maybe even swapping positions throughout the lap to utilize the draft. But that choreography becomes exponentially more difficult to accomplish when you've got faster race cars whizzing by regularly throughout this session. And with so many entries, I don't think many of these cars are going to get a completely clear lap. It's a matter of making the pass happen with the least amount of damage to your lap time.
All right, so Tom, with James Weida, our provisional pole sitter in Formula 600, David Ibarra in Formula F, and Zach Whitston in Formula V, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks to our partners and sponsors, and when we come back, more qualifying action here from Road America. Please stay with us.
Okay, so pretend this is your race car. It's on the trailer, and you have an accident. Ouch! At least your truck's insurance will pay for another one? Yeah, not so fast. Standard insurance won't replace your race car, whether it's in the trailer, in the paddock, in the garage, or the repair shop. But at Hagerty, we can protect it for what it's really worth anytime it's off the track. No matter what or where you race, offer less than a set of race tires. Hagerty, let's drive together.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance Street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
Want to try SCCA racing, but with an appropriate focus on fun and learning? The SCCA Race Experience program is exactly that, with both short sprint races you can drive by yourself and endurance races you can do with friends. All you need is an SCCA membership, a driver's license, a properly equipped car, and the right driver gear. Visit scca.com/racehacks to find more information and events near you.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
Welcome back to Road America in the Chicago Region June Sprints. I'm Tom. He's Greg. I'm Greg. He's Tom. I don't know who I am. And Tom told you too much bratwurst, Tom. I was. You have to excuse me. I was catching up our flag net here. It sounded like Mark Richardson in his Mysterian Formula V had some challenges over by turn 8, and he has gotten that car back underway. But again, to catch you all up currently, James Weeda, now your provisional pole sitter in Formula 6 with Cal Stewart 0.3 back from there. Aaron Ellis, third fastest in Formula 600 and Formula F. David Ibarra, still your provisional pole sitter with Ethan Tovo and David Adorno. Great to see David back. He's out of Woodhaven, New York, third fastest in the number 66 Miguel. And then in Formula V, Zach Whitston, Brian Farnham, and Chris Jennerjohn, your top 3.
Notice Cal Stewart did report back to, he actually took the cutout at turn 5 right before our commercial break, so he's no longer on the racetrack after setting his personal best on lap 4. Most of the field still circulating, especially the top of Formula V, all running nose to tail, coming at us now towards the kink on our live stream pictures. And it's been difficult to improve from that first set of lap times, it looks, in Formula V. Specifically, it's still Whitston, Farnham, Jennerjohn. That's Zach Whitston, to be specific. Simon Stallings is 4th, Mark Farnham in 5th. But right now, Brian Farnham on a couple of personal best sectors in Sector 2, which is the handling section in the middle of the racetrack. Simon Stallings also on a personal best Sector 1. Sector 4. That is the final sector here in qualifying before you get across the front straight start-finish line. And they just have maybe one more corner to go before they come across the start-finish line. Any movement? No. Still the same top 5 in Formula V. Andrew Whitston seems to be on a different section of the racetrack. He sits 6th in class and doesn't appear to be on a particularly special lap either, with no green sectors to his credit this time through. But over in Formula F, a couple of moves. David Adorno just picks up his personal best lap time at 2:27.8. That's about 2 seconds back from your provisional pole for Ibarra. Tovo, as I say that, Theodore Burns comes across. The Wisconsin driver picks up his best time now for 3rd. That would be row 2 for this class. And then Burns and Constantinitis slips down to 5th in class over Tazio Stefanelli in 6th.
Yeah, and Tom, I was going to mention that Demetrius Constantinitis not going to get any faster. He has pulled his car off track driver's right, going down into the hurry downs between turn 7 and turn 8. And it sounds like his qualifying session is essentially over as we watch it now as the Formula V's as the seas part as they come down the Marine sweep into turn 5. They all get back in line, however, here as again all of these racers using on this track that has so many long straightaways. They really must use the draft and work together in order to get a fast time.
There were 3 wide for a second, but again, the first sectors of this lap for our Formula V competitors, not particularly strong. Barely anybody going faster than their personal best sectors. Mark Farnham did get a personal best Sector 4 to start off his qualifying lap this time by, and then we have Steve Whitston and Mike Lawrence on a personal best Sector 1. So there's a little bit of movement, but those drivers sit 5th, 7th, and 8th, respectively, so they're not even really towards the top. They need to go over a second faster to move up towards the pole realm. Meanwhile, in F, kind of a similar story there. Really not a whole lot of movement in the later stages of this qualifying session, Greg.
All right, and so we had been displaying a debris flag or a surface flag over at turn 8. Heading into the carousel, that flag has now been withdrawn as most of our racers have been through there a number of laps. And let's see here, Tom. It looks like Brian Farnham and Chris Jennerjohn now going green on Sector 2 in Formula V. And let's see if it's enough to make any differences. So Brian Farnham is your new provisional pole sitter in Formula V with a 2:46.016. and that is almost exactly a tenth of a second faster than Zach Witston, actually 12 hundredths of a second faster. Chris Jennerjohn, though, almost 3/4 of a second back from our top two.
Yep, Mike Lawrence also moves to 4th, bumping Simon Stallings down to 5th. Mark Farnham, a personal best, but it's not enough to improve. I think he just jumped over one car, so now it's Mark Farnham in 6th, Steve Witston in 7th, Andrew Witston holding down 8th. The good news is I think a lot of cars, a lot of classes, have more of a track position is king sort of mindset when it comes to the racing. I think you can be more than a second off pace in qualifying in Formula V and stay within the hunt because of how strong the draft is. So it's not the end of the world to qualify even towards the bottom half of the top 10. It just makes your race a little bit tougher. Got to put your strategic mind on a little bit better and maybe be a little bit more aggressive. But qualifying for Vs, I think the drivers probably even know this as well. Not the make or break moment of the weekend, really.
Yeah, indeed, and and the way this session even started, as far as the positioning for these cars, because of the wet conditions that we had this morning, we had a number of the Formula Vs that were mixed in, actually towards the front end of the Formula F field. And so once they went out on track, I think some of those drivers may not have had necessarily the benefit of the draft there, at least early on, and either had to sit and drop back or perhaps just kind of slog it out over the course of the session here. So Tom, let me do this real quick. Let's make a call to the grid for our next group, if you don't mind. Attention in the paddock. E production, F production, H production, and B-Spec racers, please head to the grid. Race group number 3, E production, F production, H production, and B-Spec racers. This is your first call to the grid. And every time I look at this shot, Tom, it is always a Formula 600 that is basically trying to weave in and out between the multitudes of Formula Vs around him.
Yeah. Especially this pack of 8+ Vs running together.
Right.
Well, drivers having to knife from left to right to left to get through. And this is the final corner of the qualifying lap. Also starts your lap for the next one because of the qualifying setup here.
I think that might have been our David Ibarra, who's our Formula F pole sitter, that was going and trying to get through them as they came up through Thunder Valley. As we had, I think Ibarra in the red, white with silver on the nose machine.
Despite that, a whole bunch of improvements in Formula V. Nearly everybody in the top 7 goes quicker. We have a new provisional pole sitter as well. In Zach Witston takes the spot back over in the 127 over Brian Farnham. They now sit 3/10 clear of the next car. Chris Jennerjohn improving nicely to put himself only 3/10 back from that pole. Andrew Witston is now 4th on his best lap, 6/10 off pole. Simon Stallings, his personal best lap, now 8/10 off pole. Mike Lawrence, his personal best lap, 1 second back, and nearly tied with Steve Witston, who also just set his personal best. All of those drivers in the 246s. That was not a lot of shuffling, I don't think. That's very similar to the order they were sitting in, but everybody improving in unison.
All right, as we look over into Formula F's, Tom Porter out of Milwaukee in his Van Diemen. He set a personal best in Sector 4, which is actually the first sector of a flying lap here for qualifying. Personal best in Sector 1 as well. And we'll track here as he is working his 8th flying lap. We'll see if he can improve. Again, he is currently sitting 11th fastest in Formula F, and currently sandwiched between Russell Rudicelli and Megan Rudicelli-Weiss. A little bit off the pace there in Sector 2. As Tom, we are now past 25 minutes, and our next racer to come up through Thunder Valley, and I believe that Formula F right there is the one, and I believe that was Miles Crabb taking the checkered flag, and all following racers will as well to conclude our qualifying session, as there are racers at every part of this racetrack currently. So let's give it a little bit here. Let's continue to track some of these racers on their final flying laps.
Yeah, it's easy to follow Formula V because they're all in a line, but meanwhile, Aaron Ellis in Formula 6 actually took the provisional pole away from James Weida. Now sits a 10th up on a 223.4. It's a nice improvement there. We'll move him to the top of the overall race group and the front of Formula 6. Then Weida, Stewart, Martin, and Jocelyn will be your top 5. Someone pointed out in the live chat, by the way, that Formula 6 has the fastest trap speeds of this group, but also some of the fastest trap speeds of the weekend, 141.9 miles an hour for Cal Stewart, who always has a rocket ship in a straight line. That's almost 10 miles an hour faster than any other cars in this race group, any other classes, excuse me.
All right, so Aaron Ellis, an aerospace engineer representing the Land O'Lakes region. He was your 2000 runoffs winner in, I guess at that time was Formula 500. He is your pole sitter going into our sprint races tomorrow in Formula 600. As you said, James Weida, Cal Stewart. Over in Formula F, looks like from flag to flag, David Ibarra out of Lewisville, Texas, will keep the pole with a qualifying time of 2:25.666, almost 7/10 of a second up on David Adorno, who moves up to second fastest on the final lap based on personal bests in Sector 2 and Sector 3. That will drop Ethan Tovo back to third fastest, with Theodore Burns fourth fastest. And in Formula V, Zach Whitston in his protoform out of Austin, Texas, is your pole sitter, with Brian Farnham, Chris Jennerjohn, Steve Whitston, and Andrew Whitston rounding out the top 5. All right, let's make a final call to the grid for our next race group, Tom, then we'll take a little break. Attention the paddock, race group 3, E production, F production, H production, and B-Spec racers, please head to the grid. Race group number 3, this is your final call to the grid. Okay, Tom, let's take a break. We'll be back here with more action from Road America in just a few moments. Stay with us.
My customer experience with Mazda has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm probably not the richest person out here, and they're extremely reasonably priced, and you can buy parts easily, and it's a class that fits both what I want from a racing standpoint and what I can afford.
We got into Mazdas largely just because it's a fantastic platform, and Mazda Motorsports has some of the best support for the grassroots racer in parts and technical advice and everything else, so they make it easy for us to run these cars.
It's the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints live at the National Park Speed Road America. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tom O'Gorman. See, Tom, I got my name right this time. And next up is our small bore production group as well as B-Spec as they are heading on track for their 25-minute qualifying session. And Tom, a little bit earlier today, we had Tim Schreier out of Dubuque, Iowa in his BMW 325 IS. Same car that he used to deliver pizzas in when he was a teenager. He set the provisional pole in E-production, just about a half second faster than Tyler Ladd in his BMW Z3. Bill Miller, third fastest. Over in F-production, Mason Workman out of Canal Winchester, Ohio, in his Mazda Miata was your provisional pole sitter, with Doug Weaver and Steven Simons rounding out the top three. And in H-production, Steve Sargis out of Hartford, Wisconsin, his Triumph Spitfire with a time of 3:01.364. He's your provisional pole sitter in the class. And I've got to go all the way down through our qualifying order here to find Robert Bax out of Cincinnati, Ohio, in his 2002 Mini Cooper, second fastest in the field in qualifying, and third fastest Chris Shasma, two-time national champion, out of Wheaton, Illinois, in his Volkswagen Jetta GLI. Over in B-Spec, Ricky Holmstrom out of Florence, Wisconsin, in a Mazda 2, your provisional pole sitter, with Josh Schmidt, who was the pole sitter at the national championship runoffs last year in his 2013 Chevy Sonic. Second fastest at about 4/10 off of Holmstrom's pace. And then Gail Corley out of Willis, Texas, in a Mazda 2, third fastest.
All of those results, of course, in the wet earlier today. So this is the only dry session these drivers will get before we go racing tomorrow for the sprint race. Then the feature coming on Sunday. This is another huge race group, Greg. 50 cars entered in this group. 18 of them in B-Spec, and then we have 7 entered in E-production, 17 cars in F-production. That's huge. And then 8 cars in H-production. So you can kind of tell the B-Specs apart from everything else usually, but they kind of blend into some of the H-production hatchbacks here. Those, of course, the little subcompacts, one of the slowest cars in SCCA, but always producing one of the most fantastic races anywhere, especially here at Road America with the draft. And then, of course, huge amounts of Mazdas, mostly Mazda Miatas there in F-production, with some front-wheel drive Hondas and Acuras mixed in. E-production, the biggest displacement, lots of BMWs kind of working their way in there, as well as a couple of Datsuns, but it's a BMW show there in E-production. And then in H-production, the mix of kind of older Volkswagens, even older Triumph Spitfire for Steve Sargis, and then the slightly newer models like the Mini Coopers for Jacob Clark and Robert Bax.
And of course, Steve Sargis, your defending national champion in H-production. Tom, I'm not even going to try to pull the number out of my you-know-where as far as how many championships he's won, but many-time national champion. Tyler Ladd is your defending E-production national champion in the same BMW Z3 that Jesse Prather had taken to numerous victories. And then in H-production, as I mentioned, Shafsla is your provisional pole sitter. He took 2 wins at the national championship runoffs in VIR, but a number of national champs in the field. Mason Workman, your provisional pole sitter here in F-production today, former winner here at Road America. Ken Kennard, also former national champion as well in F-production. Graham Fuller, who was a GT Light national champion in his Toyota Tercel, also running in F-production. And we have a number of former GT Light cars here in the field. We'll see how those handle. Last year, we saw, I think, a pretty nice melding of GT Light and F-production. It was the first year that they had run together. And we'll see how this plays out. I think, as I look at it, Fuller was somewhere along the lines of 11th fastest, but again in the wet earlier today.
Also there in F-production is the yellow number 28 Acura Integra of David Strittmatter, who was basically the class of the field last year's runoffs. Just so fast, in raw pace. I'm trying to remember, actually. I think that car let go at some point in the race.
Yes.
Which is what promoted Mason Workman, is he your defending champion?
No. That was actually the year before when Workman took the win after Kevin Ruck had pretty huge letting go of a motor with very little time left in the race. Our winner in F production last year actually was one of those former GT Light cars, Chris Bovis.
That's right.
And,
thank you.
In his Honda CRX.
That was I can't believe I forgot that. That was an incredible finish.
Yes.
Which is archived on the SCCA YouTube page. If you're with us, you can watch that a little bit later.
Yes, Bovis came from very far back on, I think, the last lap out of turn 14 and had a great run up the hill to take the win. And, of course, noted by his absence here this weekend, Eric Yeagle, your defending national champion in B-Spec out of Brownsburg, Indiana. And he had a great run during the sprint races here at the Saturday sprint races at the sprints last year. And fortunately not making the field here this weekend.
B-Spec, of course, the least spec of the spec classes in the fact that they have so many different cars available. We've got Chevy Sonics, Mazda 2s, Honda Fits, Ford Fiestas all present this weekend. But a couple other cars, Mini Coopers are eligible. We have Toyota Yaris is eligible, etc. And with this track being such a staple of the club in the last 10 years, I think this track maybe influenced the balance of the cars more than any other specific track or race. Which has brought things really, really close. The Mazda 2s tend to be quick in some of the slower corners, especially with the digs off those slow corners, which we have a couple here at Road America. The Fit is a very good all-arounder, tends to be very good here at Road America. The Chevy Sonic is the big bore, we like to call it, the 1.8 liter.
Yes.
So that car tends to be really good at the first part of the straights, but does run out of steam, creates a really good balance. Right now, Stuart Black does have the pole in his Chevy Sonic, the number 40. By a tenth of a second over Caleb Patry. And then Kent Carter in third. So it's Sonic, Fit, Mazda 2, your top three in B-Spec after the first lap.
And Tom, if I remember correctly, Kent Carter took a win at Hallett Motor Racing Circuit in that Mazda 2, I think in the Saturday sprint race a little bit earlier in the season. And Caleb Patry, who was sitting at the top of the order for just a moment and is now second fastest. He's a mechanical engineer here out of the Milwaukee region. And we saw him come into the Super Tour a couple of years ago racing in STL. And he was the 2024 Northern Conference champion in STL. And also back in 2024 at the June Sprints, was the pole sitter in STL. Here, but finished. He ran the B-Spec Honda Fit last year, and I believe that he finished just off the podium, finished fourth, and was actually the provisional pole sitter after the first day. So we'll keep track of him. And I think we just saw him come through the shot there in the black hood, red flourishes on the bumper, and white sides to that Honda Fit.
On the production side of things, Tyler Ladd is your current provisional pole sitter now in E-production over John Brocky. Pair of BMW Z3s there until we get to Tim Schreier in the E30 BMW, the 3 Series from back in the 80s. He sits third, about a 1.1 seconds off that provisional pole time from Tyler Ladd. Then in F production, Doug Weaver currently has the fastest time over Ken Kennard and Mason Workman. It's Miata Integra Miata. And in H production, Steve Sargis is your quickest car by 7 seconds. Chris Shaftsma has yet to turn in a representative lap time, as well as the rest of the class. Greg Gopper sits third. The production cars, though, running that full racing slick, it will take quite a bit more time to come up, as the production cars, especially maybe down in F and H production, will probably get quicker basically through this entire session with 15 minutes left.
And I think you just said it, Tom. Tyler Ladd just resetting fastest lap of the session in his E-production Z3. He is out of Clearwater, Kansas. Turns in a 2:35.56. And that is a half second up on another one of the BMW Z3s in the field, Milwaukee, Wisconsin's John Brackey. And then Tim Schreier in the white BMW 3 Series. That's an E30 coupe. currently sitting third, about 1.1 seconds off a provisional pole.
New pole sitter in B-Spec as well. Stephanie Anderson goes to the top of the board there by 0.05 of a second over Stuart Black, bumping Caleb Patry and Kent Carter back to the second row. Usually what we see in this race group, prefacing tomorrow's sprint race, is a split start, all the production cars in one wave and all the B-Spec cars in another, which tends to give them some race time before they intersect. But this qualifying session, of course, is going to be very busy. Across the start-finish line for the third time. Not a lot of other shuffling there in B-Spec. It's Anderson, Black, Patry, Carter, Schmidt. Josh Schmidt sitting there in fifth over Chris Taylor in sixth, Gail Corley in seventh, and Ricky Holmstrom in eighth, a triple of Mazda 2s there, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Austin Boynton and Peter Zeckert rounding out the field in a pair of Honda Fits in the top 10. But we do have 18 cars there, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these cars outside the top 5 still improve. But they're going to need to get quite a bit quicker. 2-minute 54 is the benchmark time, and a lot of the cars still sitting in the 57s and 58s.
All right, so in that shot that we were just seeing coming out of or coming into turn 3, Tom, we were watching Tyler Ladd in his Z3 with Tim Schreier locked right on the back bumper. Here they come down the Moraine sweep towards turn 5. They just had John Brackey take over the provisional pole by almost 0.4 of a second. So we'll see if they can work together to move up. They got a lot of we'll just call it slower traffic directly ahead of them, though, as they are going to be coming up the hill here into turn 6 with a number of B-Spec racers just ahead. That might cause some issues for them here, but they do come underneath one of our Honda Fits, I think, fairly easily.
Also have a new pole sitter in F production. Ken Kennard with the Acura Integra takes it to the top spot by 1/10 of a second over Doug Weaver. It's still a trio of Miatas behind, though. Weaver, Workman, and Bednarz. Then David Strittmatter is the next Honda. He sits in 5th. Technically Acura there. We also still have some other drivers who have had really good success in this class towards the bottom of the top 10. Steven Simons has been on the podium at the runoffs before in recent years. Stephen Powers has been in the conversation a lot this year in the Super Tour. Graham Fuller sits 8th. Thomas Gatos 9th. Still have a couple of cars. There's now, just as we talked about him, I'm so sorry, Stephen Powers. I think that's him.
I think so.
Stuck on the right side of the racetrack coming out of turn 14 with no power.
Yeah, and just before that, Tom, we had another shot. I believe it was Mike Nat in the number 74 F production MG Midget at Akil, Wisconsin, putting out a lot of white smoke.
Yeah.
And we'll see. And he's been a bit off the pace with that. There he is. We'll see if he brings that car in. And the answer is no.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to see one of these little British cars smoking, but it's about how much smoke is in it before it stops running, usually
Exactly.
is the case for them. In B-Spec, Stuart Black retakes the top spot in the number 40 Chevy Sonic. That's the blue and white car that we just saw diving into turn 1. Session so far going nice and smooth for everybody. Still trying to find some space there here as both E-Production front runners coming up on a pair of F-Production Miatas down into turn 1. This will be a throwaway lap for both of those drivers. That's Tyler Ladd and Tim Schreier, which is maybe a bit frustrating, especially if they know that John Brackey's on pole by 0.3 of a second. Tyler Ladd just looks like he cannot find some space.
No, especially not on this lap. Well, let's do this, Tom. We'll keep watching here, but in the meantime, we're going to take a break. Thanks to our partners and sponsors. When we come back, more qualifying action here from the National Park of Speed and the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. Stay with us.
Shopping for tires used to really rub me the wrong way. That was before I went to TireRack.com. TireRack's tire decision guide made it easy to find the right tires. Talk about secret sauce. You might ask, well, you bought them, now how are you gonna put them on? No problem. TireRack has thousands of recommended installers. I chose one that does mobile installation. A technician brought the tires right to my house. He's installing them now.
Almost finished, Herb.
Take your time. I'm just marinating. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
If you like what you see today, become part of the action by joining the Sports Car Club of America. Whether you want to drive, flag, organize, officiate, have fun with cars, or meet 65,000 enthusiast friends, SCCA offers plenty to feed your motorsports obsession. Ask someone trackside how to get involved, or visit SCCA.com for more information.
Did you know SCCA members can save $20 on every track night they sign up for? That's right. Track Night America, driven by Tire Rack, now hosting 150 events at more than 30 tracks across the country, is the easiest and most affordable way to get you and your friends on track in street cars all year long. Visit tracknightinamerica.com to learn more and get yourself on track.
Welcome back to the National Park of Speed. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tom O'Gorman. And this is qualifying for small bore production and B-Spec, where in F production, your provisional pole sitter is Ken Kennard out of Sebring, Florida, former national champion in his Acura Integra. He currently has 93 one-thousandths of a second, Tom, to give over another former national champion, Mason Workman. Over in E production, John Brackey, who had just brought his car down the pit lane, had the good folks at Goodyear check some tire pressures, and I think that is the day for him. He's got about 0.4 of a second now on Tyler Ladd and Tim Schreier. And in H production, it is Steve Sargis with 5 seconds on the rest of the H production field now. Chris Shaftsma, second fastest. Greg Garper, third fastest. Over in B-Spec, Stuart Black with a second over Stephanie Anderson now, who moves up into second position, gets ahead of Caleb Patry, leapfrogs him. Kent Carner will now drop to fourth with Josh Schmidt fifth.
Been keeping my eye on Tyler Ladd in the white and blue BMW. He's still just stuck in a scrum of cars, cannot find space. Here he is coming up to turn 13. This might be the first lap since the drop that he's gotten some space and had a big scare coming out of the kink alongside one of the B-Spec Mazda 2s as well, as that section of the racetrack turns very single file. You kind of fade left coming out of the kink, you fade right to shorten the distance up. Local yellow in the first corner that you come across on this qualifying session because of the alternate start-finish line that we're using. That might throw a wrench into things even more for a lot of these drivers. But indeed, Tyler Ladd and Tim Schreier in E-Production both do finally get some clear racetrack coming into the second sector of this lap, Sector 1 on the racetrack as we count it. No shuffling in B-Spec that time through. Everyone's slowing down. I think there's just too much shuffling in this section of the field where a majority of the B-Spec cars are. The timing just sort of synced up with 5 minutes to go in this session that all the production cars are just coming across them, I think, for the first time.
Yeah, and it looked as though both Ladd and Schreier had managed to get around the F production Miata Jerry Lamb just before they got into turn number 1, and I think they've got a pretty good amount of clear track ahead of them. And if they can maintain that, the next time they come through turn 13 and onto 14 and onto the Road America Straight, there shouldn't be that local caution any longer, as they've now retrieved the car that had been disabled there. All right, and it sounds as though we had the 138 car had some challenges over at turn 3, right behind Ladd and Schreier, and he's gotten back underway now as well.
Just catching up on the YouTube chat as well. Hello to everyone who's tuned in. Got about 300 people watching this over there. Asking how many Chevy Sonics there are. There are indeed 5 registered this weekend, including a Chevy Sonic sedan, of which I hadn't seen before. But that would be Jonathan Wickert in that new dark red Chevy Sonic sedan. Also questions about where the minis are. I got to be honest, the minis have just gotten kind of heavy based on the rules. They were very successful for a long time, won a couple of runoffs, and by the rules, they just sort of kept adding a little bit of weight. I think they hit the tipping point where it's maybe a little bit too heavy for people to really gravitate towards. I actually noticed in one of the recent rule updates that they just started taking some weight back out. So maybe those minis will be making a resurgence someday. But I do think right now the Chevy Sonic, the Mazda 2, the Honda Fit, all very much on top of each other, all capable of winning races at any given time. And that's why you see so many of all 3. No green sectors for Tyler Ladd or Tim Schreier on this lap, so they haven't been able to utilize that empty racetrack, and now they're coming across even more traffic into turn 14 to start another flying lap. They might get 2 more, including this one. Shuffling in F production, not much. Still Kennard, Workman, Weaver, Bednar, Strittmatter. And in H productions, very curious what's up with Chris Shaftsma specifically. He's 5 seconds off the provisional pole pace from Steve Sargis, and that's very uncommon. You don't typically see that between 2 of our front runners being legitimately 5 seconds apart. I think there's something up maybe with that Jetta GLI, which might be a bit frustrating with this single qualifying session effectively.
All right, and it looks like Tyler Ladd. I thought I saw him come down the pit lane. And there he is. If you look all the way to the left there, Tyler Ladd pulling up on the pit lane for his crew to take a look at the car. Yeah, and Tom, when he brought the Jetta out for the runoffs last year, I know we discussed it during qualifying that it looked like it almost looked like it had a wider the right rear wheel actually was further out from the body than the left rear wheel. It was very odd looking, as though something kind of odd with the rear track. But he had a lot of challenges with the car at the runoffs, and then my understanding was at a majors race a couple of weeks ago, and it might have been the race out of Gateway. I think he had some issues with rear hubs in that car as well. And so been just dealing with a lot of, a lot of little niggles with that machine as he moved over to the Jetta after having won those two national championships in a very similar chassis, in a Volkswagen, I think an A3 Golf, or an A2 Golf, pardon me.
Right, yeah, and so many options for modifications in the production classes. As long as it retains the production engine, you can build a lot of it to within an inch of its life. The more you change, the less reliable things can be in some cases. So it's not a surprise necessarily. There is Shaftsma coming down into turn 1. But either way, when he gets it right, it will be super quick. And for the meantime, Steve Sargis gets to look like a bit of a hero with a 5-second pole gap to the rest of the field. Greg Gopper still sits 3rd in his Honda Civic. Rob Bax is 4th in his Mini Cooper. And Ray Elliott is 5th, actually turning a couple of sectors but not completing a full lap. Jacob Clark and William Traynor also entered but not turning any laps right now in H production.
Yeah, and so of course, Tom, as you were talking about the fate of the minis and B-Spec, and I'm not sure if it's the same chassis or not, but Rob Bax had for many years campaigned a mini in B-Spec, and it may be that he has taken that car over to H production. I know of another number of other racers that had been running in B-Spec with their minis, that at least temporarily have done so. All right, so sitting towards the top of the the E production field, we talked about Ladd coming in, John Brackey, the first to end his qualifying session. Tim Schreier now bringing his BMW down the pit lane as well. I believe that leaves Bill Miller out on course, still qualifying, as well as Lance Laufman. And Don Tucker did not bring the number 9 BMW Z3 out for qualifying here this afternoon. All right, checkered flag is now out on the field. And so all final flying laps here, of course, will count. And we do have still a local caution, though, over at 13, Tom. and I'm trying to determine which vehicle that may be before they get to turn 14. Because I think we may have, there you go, on the left-hand side of the screen behind the behind the ticker there, and I didn't even know we had that car there. The Honda Civic, that is, no, that is not the Larry Funk car. I believe that's Tom Gatos in the 171F production Civic.
It looks like looks like it just came alive as soon as the safety crews got there, so he was able to drive it back in, shaking something out of the suspension as he reports back to the pit lane for the end of this session. I gotta say, high quality session. Well done for these 50-some drivers, or nearly 50 drivers, to keep the track green the entire time and get some good times on the board.
All right, so Tom, let me make a call to the grid for the next group, and then we'll take a little break. Attention the paddock, Formula Enterprises, prototypes and prototype 2 drivers. Please head to the grid. FE2, prototype, and P2, please head to the grid. All right, so to break things down there in B-Spec, Stuart Black, Stephanie Anderson, Caleb Patry, your top 3. In H production, Steve Sargis, Chris Shafsma, and Greg Gopper. In F production, Ken Kennard, Mason Workman, Doug Weaver, and then finally in E production, John Brackey, Tyler Ladd, and Tim Schreier. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back here with open wheel and prototype qualifying at the at the June sprints. We'll be right back.
My name is Joshua Smith, Business Development Manager for Mazda Motorsports. We're happy to be supporting the SCCA and Mazda racers here. So our team support program offers a couple of tiers of support, part support, technical support. All of this is done through our MazdaMotorsports.com parts store website. It's basically like signing up for an Amazon account. Simple information, prove that you're a racer. It gets you access to our 800 hotline that you can call and speak to one of our parts representatives 5 days a week.
You know, one of the most rewarding things about working a race experience event, which I get to do a few times a year, is just seeing the enjoyment. How much people enjoy just getting out there and driving when position doesn't matter, when class doesn't matter, when you're just kind of having fun. And for a lot of us that are very traditional SCCA folks that want to take that victory lap, I think sometimes we forget how the pure joy comes about, and race experience has reintroduced me to that.
It is the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints here at the National Park Speed Road America, and I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Tom O'Gorman. Next up for qualifying, FE2 Prototype and Prototype 2. And Tom, I think see here that certainly a little bit more importance for P2 this year at the June Sprints, as while they did not compete at the National Championship runoffs in 2025, they are back for 2026. I think we've got a good size P2 field here this weekend.
Yeah, 9 strong by the entry list, 8 cars in Prototype. That's the slightly faster, bigger engine version. And then Formula Enterprises 2, the open wheel cars that you'll see on the racetrack, 12 strong on the entry list. This is some of the fastest cars we'll see all weekend. Always a lot of fun to watch how fast they are, especially through the corners with all the downforce that the Prototype cars will make. And again, this is the closest to practice that you'll get for the runoffs later this year if you're a driver chasing a national championship. So a really important weekend. And a wet qualifying session this morning will get probably basically thrown out the window once we get some dry laps here in a couple minutes.
Indeed. All right. And so a lot of very quick drivers here. Of course, Lee Alexander, Lawrence Loshak in the field in his Elan DPO2. It's, I think, been a couple years away from SCCA club racing for Lawrence. But after a couple years in the pro paddock, he was talking to our own Jim Llewellyn from SCCA, and says that he likes the feel of an SCCA paddock. He says he's been able to come off the track, sit down, have a few beers with some friends, and it's not nearly as stressful as what he found when he was running on the pro side. So great to see Mr. Loshak back. I believe our fastest driver in qualifying this morning in FE2 was Mateo Naranjo in the number 80 machine out of Edwards, Illinois. He spent after having some very good success in the Formula F ranks, and then running with Formula Race Productions in the Formula 1600s. He has now come back in an FE2 machine. And he was the 2023 and 2024 Hoosier Super Tour champion in Formula F, as well as I mentioned in FRP. I think the 2024 FRP champion in F1600. In 2024, he also finished second at the runoffs in Formula F. So great to see Mateo back. Know that his foray in the SMX didn't necessarily work out the way he wanted it to, and he seems very comfortable in one of these FE2 chassis from what we've seen so far this season.
And I was just thinking, actually, this is basically the SMX of open wheel world. They're spec cars. It's a 2-liter Mazda engine in the back. It's a sequential gearbox and driving skill. That's what you get the lap time for in FE2. So that's a really fun to watch. It tends to produce some really good racing as well. And they don't rely too much on the downforce. It is there. There is maybe a sniff of a draft that will come into play, but it really is just a kind of mechanical grip, fairly straightforward formula car. Noticing a lot of them wiggling the back end in this camera shot here coming out of turn 6. That's 2 or 3 cars now, specifically FE2s, that have been dancing and really pushing the spec tire early in the session. These cars all running a full racing slick of some sort. There's another little wiggle coming out of turn 8 as well. But the prototype cars are going to be very much faster than the top FE2 cars after they get the thing kind of up and spinning into its momentum.
So, interesting field here that I'm seeing this weekend in FE2. So we talked a little bit about Mateo Naranjo. By the way, Will Franklin now moving to provisional pole with about 4/10 on Naranjo. But we've got we have racers that are Formula F600 racers like Keith Jocelyn, who actually Keith isn't a former Formula 600 racer. We saw him just a little bit earlier today. Russell Straight as well. We've got from the Formula V ranks Steve Whitston, who's been racing in FE2 for a number of years now as well. And also in the field, driving the number 71 machine, we've got Mark Greb, who is at the ripe young age of 68 behind the wheel of this machine. Finished second in the GTU class at the 1978 24 Hours of Daytona. So very, very diverse field here this weekend in FE2.
How cool is that? I would love to I mean, imagine the perspective of watching motorsports transform in real time, basically, for anybody who was racing then and still racing now. It's so cool. I have to wonder, I mean, I'd want to ask him, what's changed about your driving style? How has it needed to advance or change over the years as technology's gotten better, as downforce has gotten better, et cetera, et cetera? You know, there's even like things like data. Have you had to teach yourself data to keep up, or are you still doing it the way you did in the 70s? That would be a fascinating conversation.
Absolutely, and he's got a long history of racing in the SCCA. Down his father raced in Formula V back in the 60s as well. So, I mean, again, it's kind of like old home week here for Mark. And I think, I have to double check, but I think Mark is racing in another class as well this weekend. Yeah, actually, I believe we'll see him tomorrow morning in Spec Racer 4 Gen 3 as well. So, you know, Tom, I think all those questions that you'd want to ask him, you know, it's you know, how does it affect your driving style? But he also has to deal with the driving style with two different types of cars. It looks like we've got a driver that just went off, went for a nice little ride through the gravel trap at the exit of the carousel and has rejoined a little bit off the pace, and it looks to be one of our prototype cars. I'll see if I can get the number.
Yeah, that car went off pretty early. I think to end up where they did, that would have had to have been maybe middle of the carousel to end up off the racetrack there. It is one of our prototype competitors. The car is number 39.
Yes.
Todd Vanacore. That's what I thought it was. Todd Vanacore with a bit of an off and resume, but no harm, no foul. By the way, Bart Wolf at the top of prototype. He's your provisional pole sitter, is hauling the mail, a 2:03.8. Sub 2 minutes at Road America is nearly unheard of, and he's starting to flirt with it here in his Elan DPO2. The number 28 has a 2-second advantage over Lee Alexander's store there in prototype, and then Greg Guyan has finally broken the 2-minute 20 barrier for prototype 2 and taken a couple of cars with him. He sits on the provisional pole by 2.5 seconds over Mike Rupert, and Brian Lindstrom also coming down sub 2:20. John Patrick Witherspoon also. So now 4 cars there in prototype breaking that threshold.
And of course, Bart Wolf has his, I believe, Wolf Motorsport team practically right outside the front gates here. You make a left out of gate 6 and head down the road, and about a mile and a half away, as he's got the entire organization there. And I think Lawrence Loshak may have a car that has been prepared by Bart's team as well. As I say, Loshak now takes the 111 DPO2 up to second fastest in the prototype class. In the P class, Lee Alexander in third, Tyler Thielman running in fourth. And the thing you'll find here is that with the exception of Lee Alexander, I think the top 5 drivers all from very close to Road America. Thielman from Kiel, Wisconsin, and of course Bart from Elkhart Lake, and Lawrence from Milwaukee.
Also all driving those Elan DPO2s from the IMSA Lights category back in the 2010s. They've found a really nice home in this prototype category, and you can even push the limits of those cars. Some teams working on additional aero devices and other things allowed in prototype that wasn't allowed back in that IMSA spec class, getting the cars faster and faster. Kind of keeping an eye on this as an interesting data point more than anything else, but the track record in prototypes is a 2:01.1. We're at a 2:03.3 right now. It wouldn't count if he were to beat it in this session. It only counts in races, but it's getting close. It's Todd Vanacore trying and finally breaks free of some Formula Enterprise 2 traffic to start to try to make up some ground after his quick off and resume.
And of course, Vanacore, a former national champion in the class, taking that win at Virginia International Raceway just a few years ago.
Lots of green sectors in Formula Enterprises 2. Will Franklin still has the top spot by 0.2 over Matteo Naranjo. Steve Whitston is up to third. Tom Hope fourth. Dean Opperman fifth. But nearly everybody starting this lap off with a personal best. At the start of this lap is Sector 4. Then Sector 1, we're waiting on a whole bunch of those cars to finish. Sector 1 ends in the end of this straightaway here. So that's a couple of these cars coming down. Looks like Matteo Naranjo is on a pretty good lap. He will be finishing any moment. Needs to find 2.5 of a second or so to take over the provisional pole from Will.
And he goes green for the final sector, Tom, but I don't think that's enough for him to leapfrog Franklin. Still, about 1/4 of a second separating those two drivers. And even with that, Matteo Naranjo does not run any faster than his prior laps. Steve Whitston now moving up to third fastest with a 2:15.5. He is 1.3 seconds off the provisional pole, 1.1 back from Matteo Naranjo.
Just in kind of watching this season unfold on the Hoosier Super Tour schedule, the FE2 cars do often have the opportunity to set fast laps at the end of sessions, especially if they take a break and let the tires cool down just a bit and go for it again. So that is certainly not all said and done just because there's not a lot of improvements right now. Over in Prototype 2, Mike Rupert has taken over the top spot. The Wisconsin driver goes to a 2:12.0. That's a half second up now on Greg Guyan, both driving store WF1s. Then Brian Lindstad has taken his Van Diemen into third, sitting about 4 seconds back. So it's really a top 2 breakaway there in P2.
Yeah, and Rupert was your 2023 June Sprints winner, also 2-time national champion, I believe, both those in P2. And he's had a runoff pole, I think, 6 or 7 times as I go back and thumb through my notes. And he is also lives very close to Road America out of Hubertus, Wisconsin. All right, the 48 machine now heading onto the pit lane. That's Lee Alexander in his store. Had an off, went a little wide coming out of Canada corner to end that prior lap, and looks like he's got his team now on the pit lane, taking a look at things. Also heading onto the pit lane, another one of our P2 cars, I believe AJ Snyder in the 49 store.
Yeah, that car looks to be struggling with something as he sits well down on pace there after a couple of laps. Over on the prototype side, the faster of the two classes, some nice improvements for drivers getting into the top 5. Todd Vanacore completes a full lap down to a 2:06.4 and has already started another personal best, sectors 4 and 1 to kick off that lap. And also a nice pickup for the 02 of Fritz Seidel in his Elan DPO2, the Milwaukee driver. Just about 1 second back from Vanacore, it's 5th.
All right, so Tom, this is a good time for us to take a break. Let's do that. We'll be back here with more qualifying action from the WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
What does it mean to be built with Summit? It means you're hitting the autocross, drag strip, road course, trail, dirt, or open road with confidence. Because built with Summit means you're using parts from the top names in performance, priced to make your project affordable, and it's all backed by trusted tech expertise and blazing fast shipping. Summit Racing Equipment. Let's build it together. SummitRacing.com.
Okay, track day checklist. Let's go. You got your gloves, your helmet, water, snacks, sunscreen. Your car is prepped and ready to go. Ugh, forgot your track day insurance, didn't you? If you want to be covered for the whole value of your car, you need high-performance driver education coverage through Hagerty. We'll get you a policy for track days, time trials, and more in less time than it took you to apply that sunscreen. Hagerty, let's drive together.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
Welcome back to Road America for the June Sprints. Let's check in with our FE2 racers, Prototype and P2. In FE2, Will Franklin, your provisional pole sitter. And in P2, Mike Rupert and Bart Wolf, currently your provisional pole sitter in the P class, in the Prototype class. And Tom, as we check in, we've got about 7.5 minutes remaining now in qualifying. And if we look at our timing and scoring, let's see if we've got anybody on any flyers.
Yeah, I'm watching Steve Whitston right now in FE2. He's been knocking on a top 2. Will Franklin still has the top spot by 2.5 tenths over Mateo Naranjo, but Whitston had been on a personal best sector 4 and 2. Unfortunately, just completes the lap to no improvement. Looks like he was held up big time in sector 3 somewhere, lost a bunch of time, so that's no help. But I do think the 18 car still has the opportunity to get onto the front row in FE2. Lots of improvements behind. Tom Burt goes faster, Keith Jocelyn goes faster, Derek Chan goes faster, Mark Greb goes faster. That's all for 6th through 9th in class. But they're still sitting maybe 3-ish seconds to 4-ish seconds off the top spot there in FE2.
All right, looks like John Patrick Witherspoon just leapfrogged Brian Lindstrand and moved into 3rd fastest in the P2 class, putting down a 2:14.266. And, well, that's a whole 2 seconds. Maybe he didn't leapfrog Lindstrand because he's got about 2.5 seconds on the driver of the 04 Star.
With 28 cars on the racetrack right now, there is a lot of passing happening, and it's kind of odd the way these cars make speed. They're not going to make speed that differently in a straight. It's kind of all down into the cornering. For the most part. Maybe some of the prototypes with the bigger displacement engines can make a pass in the straights just like that. But again, look, that's a prototype trying to make a pass on a Prototype 2 into the kink, and they just don't have enough oomph to make passes. So I think the reason we're seeing drivers kind of turning in personal best sectors and then not going faster is just kind of the chance of coming across somebody who is a little bit slower than you around this 4-mile lap.
Get a little bit of a draft to pull them along there. All right, it looks like Tom. All right, it looked like we did have one car off pace, and just rounded turn 14, came up the pit lane. As we've got about 5 minutes remaining, so we were displaying a white flag over at the final corner 14 for a little while, and that is the 10 car, one of our FE2 entries, Tom Hope, who is currently 4th fastest in FE2, and he's got some crew taking a look at the rear of the car. They don't appear to be too concerned with it. And just checking tire temps at this point.
Right now we're watching Lee Alexander and Bart Wolf on our live stream from turn 5 into turn 6. Looks like Wolf maybe getting a little bit held up. Whoa, and Lee Alexander doing everything he can to stay in front. Big tank slapper coming off of turn 6.
Yeah.
Trying to use some of that grass creep. Just caught that there on our camera shots. Well done, Jordan. But Bart Wolf has started the lap with, he's your provisional pole sitter, and he's set the session best purple in sectors 4 and 1. Unfortunately, doesn't have much more room to go before he needs to just pass Lee Alexander if he wants to finish off this lap. Pokes to the inside for the kink. This could be sketchy. It's a drag race between the two. Lee Alexander finally folds, and I do think that's going to hold Bart Wolf up a bit on this lap.
All right, and we'll see here as they come up the hill.
Yeah, Wolf just lost 1.1 seconds in Sector 2 following Alexander. Here he comes to complete the lap. Still might be okay. Oh, it's only a 2:04.9. Most of us would dream of that kind of lap time, but it's not no help for Bart Wolf here. Gets to start another lap up the front straight.
I'm over. I'm just thinking about my days in my CRX being almost half a minute behind, more than half a minute off of that. All right, well, he'll start another here with quite a bit of open track ahead of him as Lawrence Loshak completes his 8th flying lap, and now about 0.6 of a second off of Bart Wolf's times.
In Prototype 2, Greg Guyan just went a little quicker, set his personal best lap of a 2:11.5. That's now within 1.3 seconds or so of Mike Rupert, but Rupert really did put his stamp on the class a couple laps back when he ran that 2:10.1.
All right, and we've got about 2 minutes remaining here. Let me make a quick call to the grid, Tom, for the next group. Attention the paddock. Race group number 5, SMX, please head to the grid. Race group 5, SMX. Spec MX5, please head to the grid. All right, let's check in. And Tom, on this lap, it doesn't. Wolf has not gone green or purple on either of the first 2 sectors. And as he completes the 3rd, not on the 3rd either. So appears to be, even though he's had some open track ahead of him, there looks as though he may be using this as a cool down lap, maybe to head back to the pits.
Right. And just behind them, Todd Vanacore just leapt over Lee Alexander for 3rd in Prototype with a 2:04.4. Whoa, where'd this come from? Bart Wolf did just go quicker. After a series of mass sectors, he goes fastest in Sector 3, which completes the lap, and goes to a 2:03.1. Wow.
That literally going purple in the final sector was enough.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right,
so that's now
he
Wolf,
turns
Loshak, and Vanacore.
Yeah, so it turns in a 2:03.176. That is 0.8 of a second clear of Lawrence Loshak. Todd Vanacore, then another, let's see, he is another 0.4 of a second back from there. But that was just absolutely stunning because it looked like he was on a cool down lap. And I think he's also brought his car down the pit lane to call it a session.
Said just one more. Got his one more in there. Also, Mike Rupert goes quicker at the top of Prototype 2. He's now at a 2:09.1 and extends his provisional pole to 2.3 seconds instead of just 1.3. Still surprised we haven't seen much churn in FE2. It's really been kind of holding strong with Will Franklin up 2.5 tenths still on Mateo Naranjo and Steve Whitston again. But just here at the end of the session, we're starting to see some green sectors pop up in FE2. Just as we suspected, maybe some gas left in the tank for some of these cars.
Yeah, and so as I'm looking at Mateo Naranjo, who's set a personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2, still quite a bit off of what Will Franklin has done ahead. He was about 0.4 off of Franklin's best Sector 1 time, and then, Sector 3 was all that made the difference there, Tom, is Mateo Naranjo also hadn't run as quickly in Sector 2, but he now goes to provisional pole in FE2 with a time of 2:14.045. That's 0.15 clear of Will Franklin.
Yeah, nicely done at the very last second in qualifying as well. So now that's a 0.152 advantage Mateo Naranjo to Will Franklin coming to the start tomorrow. Steve Whitston still 3rd. Tom Hope think has been sitting in fourth for a while, holds fourth there as well.
All right, we've got a local caution down by turn 5, just as the checkered flag is now being displayed for the field, and I think it may be, looks like it was, is that the 27 car? 37, actually it was the 37 of Will Franklin, and I think he just, no, actually it was the 27 car of Dean Opperman, who spun going down into turn 5. He gets that car back underway. But obviously his 11th lap here in the session not going to net him a fast lap, and he is going to finish 5th at best, as we've got another driver. Look at this coming up through Thunder Valley.
Yeah. I just had been
FE2 racers
watching these cars through the kink. It looks like they did make some contact, as there's damage on the left rear of the prototype machine.
Yeah.
That prototype came up quick, and almost they made contact down the straightaway, and looks like it materialized into some sort of incident at Canada Corner.
And I'm fairly certain it's the, I think the FE2 car is the 77 of Russell Straight. And the other, the prototype car, let me see if I can get a number on that. Yeah, I said basically coming up into Thunder Valley, that side-by-side contact right at the apex. And it's the 88 car of John Witherspoon there, who is disabled driver's right. All right, so Tom, let's take a look here in FE2. Matteo Nerano with that last lap charge takes provisional pole with a 2:14.045, 0.15 of a second clear of Will Franklin. Steve Whitston, another 0.7 of a second back from there. Tom Hope, 4th fastest. Over in P2, Mike Rupert with a time of 2:09.144, 2.4 seconds clear of Greg Guyan with John Witherspoon. Another almost 2 seconds back from there, 3rd fastest, with Brian Lindstrand, 4th fastest. And in the prototype class, Bart Wolf with 0.8 on Lawrence Loshak. Todd Vanacore, 3rd fastest. Lee Alexander, 4th fastest. All right, let's make a final call for our next group, Tom, and we'll take a little break. Attention the paddock, final call for race group number 5, Spec MX5, race group 5, SMX. Please head to the grid. Your qualifying starts in just a few moments. All right, so we will take a break, and we'll be back with more qualifying action here from the National Park of Speed. Stay with us.
We're not supposed to be out here. Outside expectations. Built for the outdoors. With the capability to climb this high, we're not supposed to be out here. Which is exactly why we are. The off-road ready Mazda CX-50. We're looking for outsiders.
Hey everybody, my name is Jonathan Start. I'm racing the number 51 GT2 Viper ACRX here at Road America this weekend. We're going to kind of talk about some changing conditions that are happening this weekend. We're going from rain to wet to dry to kind of wet, trying to figure out the correct setup, which tires we might need to run in our particular racing line that we need. With racing in the rain, you usually want to soften up your vehicle. Some of the things that you can do is change your shock settings, change your spring rate, and maybe if you can also change your sway bar. We can change our shock setting, so we go soft. You really want to go soft in the rear in this car, so we can kind of put the power down a little bit easier. With any type of racing, you have different tires. In this scenario, as you start seeing that rain coming down, it's time to start trying to figure out which tire you have. There's full wet, there's intermediates, slicks, and what we call a DOT slick. This is where it kind of gets challenging, and the best of the best can really kind of figure out which tire to use at the right time. If it's drying and you think it's going to be really dry, you put that full race tire ready on that slick tire and go for it. But definitely if it's raining and you think it's going to be raining the whole time and wet, we use that full Hoosier rain tire. One thing that really factors into this is what you're going to do as a driver. A lot of people change their actual racing line or driving line. As you look, you're looking for puddles, you're looking for glare. If you're on the rain tires and it does start to dry, you're seeking the wet to keep those tires cool. But if you are on those dry tires and it is starting to dry out, you try to get to that dry line as soon as you can to keep those slick tires warm, and hopefully you have the chance to win that race. Hopefully these items that we covered today help you at the track and hopefully make you more successful. But it is my time to go. We're about ready to go race ourselves. I actually need to figure out which tires I'm going to use here in just a moment. Guys, have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to the National Park Speed Road America and the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. I'm Greg Ginsburg. He's Tom O'Gorman. And this is SMX Spec MX5 qualifying, where this morning and late morning we had Camden Gruber set the provisional pole time at a 2:46.3, followed up by Benham Abernethy and Lincoln Larson. That's your top three. And then Michelle Squarick, who's had a good run of late. She's out of Peachtree Corners, Georgia. Fourth fastest. West Tuchek, fifth fastest. As we go on board now with Joey Andrews. He looks to call himself a Stiglet here as our SMX racers are on their outlap heading down in the Canada corner. When they come up through Thunder Valley, they'll get the green flag and will be qualifying. Go, green flag in the air for Lincoln Larson and all the cars ahead of him. All right, so Abernethy was the first driver to get the green flag. Camden Gruber slotted in right behind him on the outlap. And Tom, looks like the draft's already underway here at Road America.
It sure is. This is one of the newest classes in in SCCA National Racing. Kind of the next logical, not a progression, but next logical thing from Spec Miata was to make the NC MX5 a spec class of its own, now national status. And we don't typically see the draft be a deal breaker at most racetracks, but I think this is one of the outliers, a little bit different than Spec Miata, where anytime you clear 90 miles an hour, the draft is important. Here, these cars, we've actually seen drivers just sort of pull away on raw pace if you get the setup just right to get the car in the window for the most amount of time in the race. This, of course, also one of the classes that runs a single set of tires all weekend long, other than rain sessions. So they will have basically had sticker tires on the car for this session, and those will be on the car for the remainder of the weekend. But that Spec Hoosier tire on these cars, not going to be able to keep the pace for the entire 25-minute session, as no tire would. It's just going to get a little bit too hot. So I think getting the car in a position where you can put a good lap on the board early, maybe within the first 5 laps at most, but maybe even within the first 3, is pretty critical here in this session. Not a surprise to see them all running in a big pack like this. They tend to do that in any session. Funny enough, this is the smallest race group of the weekend, but I think it's going to promote thank you.
You're welcome.
Some of the
Usually
most
I'm
amount
the
of
one
racing.
Searching for words, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's something interesting, Tom, as you were talking about the SMX racers having typically one set of tires that they it's big a couple drivers going very wide side by side through the kink, and that could have been very interesting. But here's the interesting thing here, Tom. So as we saw with Spec Miata and now also with SMX, typically the drivers will have one dry set of tires over the course of the entire weekend. Now, we talked about how it was wet and damp early on this morning, and coming up towards lunchtime or so here today. One of my little spies out in the paddock, and I guess we can call him an associate producer because he is in the chat, sent me a little note offline, and I guess I can share this. And he said, when the SMX racers went out for qualifying this morning, everyone was on dries except for Joey Andrews, who was on wets. And so, I mean, for right now in this qualifying session, it doesn't really mean much, or it may not mean much at all. But I'm wondering by the time Sunday rolls around, when Joey Andrews might have a tire that is, a full session newer, possibly, than all the other racers, whether that's going to be something that comes into play.
It's possible. If he got any meaningful heat cycle on it in the wet, I'd be if all the other drivers got a meaningful heat cycle on the cars in the wet, I'd be a bit surprised. But here's a look at what the draft can do. It looks like Camden Gruber may be bailing out of this lap and letting a couple of other cars get through, on board with Joey Andrews. Gruber was your fastest car last time by on that very first lap. A 2:37.6 is the new provisional pole time. That's 6,000ths of a second faster than Lincoln Larson, who is second. William Wallace is third. Weston Ducek fourth, and Jared Korth up to fifth. But now he settles into Camden Gruber, the car just in front of us now, as we jump on board William Wallace's car. We'll maybe try to go for a bit of a draft. Interestingly enough, though, he was at the front of the train to set that provisional pole time, certainly getting some push, but from behind. But either way, that was a pretty good effort there at the start of this session. I do think these tires maybe are fastest on the second or third lap. They will like a little bit of heat. But if you give up your second lap to shuffle things around, obviously not.
All right, and so Gruber finished second at the National Championship runoffs here at Road America in the fall. And I think he also had did he not have a win, I think, at Hallett? Probably not at Hallett, but at Mid-Ohio just a few weeks ago for the last stop on the Super Tour. So we'll watch here, and I think you said on the opening lap that Larson had pushed Camden Gruber past Abernethy on track. By the way, Abernethy now sitting seventh in the order behind Joey Andrews, Jared Korth, Wes Ducek, Wallace, Larson, and Gruber.
See if anybody's able to make any moves this lap through. The only driver to improve so far is Matt Stretch, who jumps into the top 10 after being outside for the first lap. Really not a lot of shuffling otherwise. Matteo Azzari goes a little bit quicker but maintains 8th. Christian Hoagland jumps up to 13th from being a little further back there out of the 20 cars on the racetrack. But I think with that shuffling, that lap is essentially a scratch and a wash. Maybe get something more representative this time as Lincoln Larson looking racy up the inside down into turn 1. That's not going to be quick. Ooh, and cars flying off the racetrack on the exit as well. These guys are really keeping things very intense here in the early stages. I mean, we had a bunch of close calls in the first time through the kink. Now we got a bunch of cars creating chaos coming off of turn 1 through turn 2 and 3. Maybe even a bit of a...
I saw one driver just pinched right over the apex curbing at turn 3. I don't think it was Lincoln Larson here. I think it was just ahead of him. But yeah, it's definitely a little spicy out here today. As Gruber takes is Larson a little late on the brakes. I don't know if, maybe that little move to the inside that Gruber made at the last moment there maybe threw Larson's timing off. But yeah, that was interesting to say the least.
Good lap started right now for Camden Gruber, William Wallace, and Michelle Squirick. Those three are the fastest in Sector 4, which starts off the lap in qualifying. Gruber now sitting in the second spot and bails out again, does he? Yes, he pulls to the left and is going to let more cars come through. So knew somewhere in Sector 2 that this lap became not worth completing. Still trying to play the game of finding the best spot on the racetrack to go quicker as he holds the provisional pole. And that is now going to allow a one-car breakaway at the front. I'm trying to remember this white and purple machine. Is that Jared Korth, maybe?
Korth, I believe.
At the front. Love watching these MX-5s move around on the racetrack. You can really see how the drivers have to drive these cars with the weight and the momentum more than anything else. They move around on the racetrack more visibly than I think any other car in SCCA, which makes it so fun to watch, in my opinion. Coming up on the start-finish line, finishing Sector 3 on the alternate timing loop here, who has improvements. Camden Gruber still at the front, but now just gets tripped by William Wallace, goes to the provisional pole by 0.07 of a second over Gruber. Lincoln Larson now puts down to third. Michelle Squirick, a great move up to fourth in the number 75, 238.1. That's moving Wes Ducek down to fifth, Jared Korth down to sixth. Further back from there, Matt Stretch goes from 10th to 8th. It's another improvement for the number 89 car. And Aiden Shimbashi, the other big mover, up from, I think, 15th to 11th.
Yeah, indeed. And Matteo, I was about to say Matteo Naranjo. Matteo Azzari in the 110 machine now out of Chicago. He now falls back to 10th in the order as he is sandwiched between Abernethy and Shimbashi, only 36 of a second back from Abernethy in 9th, however.
But at the front of this train, Jared Korth leads William Wallace, leads Camden Gruber as they run on the racetrack. Now we're going to go side by side behind them into turn 5. But a purple sector 4 to start off this lap for Camden Gruber. Keep an eye out, just needs to find 0.07 of a second to take over the top spot. Again, either way, still on the front row. As now William Wallace shoves Jared Korth wide. I think there was some contact there, nose to tail at turn 6. It's going to slow down the progress for all 3 of those race cars.
Yeah, and Tom, even with we talked as you mentioned, Gruber getting that going purple in sector 1. I mean, he can't really do much about it there, being the 3rd car in this group either.
Just behind them, that was the. Is that the 222? What is that number? 171, excuse me.
Yeah.
111. No, it's Joey Andrews and Benham Abernathy having some contact at turn 8. Both cars off the racetrack, and they're dropped back into the pack now. Michelle Squirick and Lincoln Larson at the front of that second train. And a lot of these drivers, Greg, I think they're playing high-risk qualifying here. They're pushing the limits just at the limit, if not over the limit, of kind of trying to work together at the expense of creating these big mistakes. We're seeing a lot of these big mistakes on this lap, particularly.
All right, so we go back on board with Joey Andrews, currently your 7th fastest driver in qualifying. As he comes across the line, let's see, do we have anybody improve on that lap? I don't believe so. Well, Wes Duchek did improve. Oh, my.
More contact. I think that's Aiden Shimbashi and Joey Andrews. Shimbashi trying to keep the car under control. Andrews had a better run and didn't want to lift. It's a little, again, we're flirting with being a little greedy here in this qualifying session. I think the drivers need to take a little bit of a breather.
A little breather, maybe?
Yeah, but either way, the only mover last time through was Wes Duchek, who moved up to 5th, just in front of Jared Korth.
Well, Tom, we've got about 11 minutes here remaining in qualifying as the 133 machine comes down the pit lane. I'm wondering if Abernethy picked up some damage from that earlier contact. But let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more SMX qualifying at the June Sprint. Stay with us.
Shopping for tires used to really grind my gears. So many tires, and the thought of choosing the right one made me, Precisely. That's before I went to TireRack.com. I got the best deal hands down. My tires ship fast and free, arrive the next day like clockwork. Tire Rack even gave me 2 years of free road hazard protection. Precisely.
TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Want to try SCCA racing, but with an approach focused on fun and learning? The SCCA Race Experience program is exactly that. With both short sprint races you can drive by yourself and endurance races you can do with friends. All you need is an SCCA membership, a driver's license, a properly equipped car, and the right driver gear. Visit scca.com/racex to find more information and events near you.
It's the 2026 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, the premier amateur road racing series bringing together top SCCA road racers from around the country. The Hoosier Super Tour visits some of the greatest tracks in North America, showcasing each of our 25 championship classes. Production to GTs, prototypes to Formula cars, the Hoosier SCCA Super Tour packs a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing action into every event.
Welcome back to Road America and the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. I'm Greg, he's Tom, and that is, if we go back to it, that is Ryan Gutile's right rear wheel, I think, off in the grass. Well, there's Ryan Gutile, and his wheel is, well, right there. And looks like his session is done. So we've got a local caution over at 14, Tom, which I think certainly could challenge most of these racers in the hopes of setting a faster lap. We also have a local caution down at turn 1. I think just as we were coming back from break, we had a shot over there. We could see the emergency services teams responding to one of the cars over there as well. But at the moment, it is William Wallace, your provisional pole sitter. He's got 0.07 of a second on Camden Gruber, Lincoln Larson. Third fastest, only 0.06 of a second back from there. Michelle Squarick and Wes Duchek, your top 5.
Yeah, and that was for Aiden Shimbashi off at turn 1. As we were talking before the break, this has been a fairly chaotic session. Drivers just flirting with the line of trying a bit too hard, in my personal opinion anyway, but that has created a bit of a double whammy here at the second half of the session. The tires are hot, and there's multiple corners covered by local yellow. So even though things have calmed down just a little bit in this train of cars, as I say that, a couple cars running just at the limit. Yeah, a couple cars really flirting with the track limit there. I don't know that we're going to see much meaningful improvement from this point on.
No, and as these racers come down the Canada corner, they're going to see white flags down there as we've got some emergency services vehicles out on track over by Canada corner, and I think they've just now gone back behind the wall, but we do have that local caution over at the top of over by turn 13, and of course with this race car over to driver's right. And still we've got racers, Tom, using all that extra grasscrete that's out there now, and maybe even a little bit more, even under these conditions where not only is there no passing under local caution, but the racers have been told prior to coming out here this weekend to adhere to those yellow flags, that they should be backing out of the throttle as well when we've got those emergency services teams out retrieving race cars.
Yeah, that is one thing that Road America does not play with. If you make the safety workers uncomfortable, they will pull the plug very quickly. Now, this lap will basically be a wash for all of these drivers, having seen 2 local yellows already by turn 3. A couple of thoughts that this makes me think of, but real quick, we did have 2 improvements on the previous lap, not this lap, but the previous, for Matteo Azzari up to 7th and Mitchell Lowry up to 8th, respectively. That moves Joey Andrews and Matt Stretch down to 9th and 10th. But kind of 2 thoughts for Road America. I mean, we saw Ryan Gutile's car sitting there with one wheel falling off. This track is really hard on race cars, and these are basically street cars with some modifications and some really, really sticky tires. And that can be a bit of a nightmare for wear and tear. So you really have to be a bit strategic with how aggressively you use the curbs in most cases. But I think in especially SMX and SM, you don't really get the choice to not use them. You have to use every inch of the racetrack to go as fast as the cars can go. So you're just kind of hoping and praying that nothing breaks for the entire session in these races. And that can really, it's worth putting the car up, nutting and bolting, even bringing spares and replacing things throughout the weekend here, in particular, more than any other racetrack I've been to.
All right, so as we've got about 4 minutes remaining on the clock, Tom, here, let me make a call to the grid for our next group here quickly. Attention the paddock, race group number 6, our our next group, it is Formula Atlantic and Formula Continental. Please head to the grid. Race group number 6, Formula Atlantic and Formula Continental. By the way, it's our very last qualifying session of the afternoon. Please head to the grid. So we do still have the local caution over at 13. We do have emergency services teams that have responded to the stranded Gutile SMX machine there in the exit of turn 14. And we have now gone, Tom, to a full course caution.
Going to try to maybe put 2 and 2 together and guess that they might have spooked the safety workers just enough. They're like, all right, we're going to make everyone slow down with these full-on yellows. But all that said, I mean, I don't know that it was for much anyway, because the tires are at this point not going to be in their window.
Right.
No one's going quicker at this point, especially with the yellows, but even on the other sections of the racetrack.
Yeah, I think the only drivers that we saw, certainly with the local cautions, nobody's going to go any faster. I think even leading up to that, the only drivers that we saw maybe improving were some of those towards the tail end of the field. They may have been setting faster lap times, but we weren't seeing any major changes in the order here. And so the checkered flag now, Tom, is going to be displayed, I think, for the next car that comes by, which likely, if my map of the track is correct, I was going to say it was the number 5 car, but that might be, I think that's Marcelo Kusma out of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, currently running 20th fastest. And he is heading down the Canada corner now. So all following drivers will see the checkered flag. And, yeah, they're getting word from race control, Tom. I mean, I think this kind of spells it out that they were getting calls in of bump drafting under the local cautions and going down the front straight, heading down towards turn 1. And race control apparently was not too pleased with that situation. So there you go. So let's take a look at how things finished up here in SMX. William Wallace out of Paso Robles, California, with your provisional pole time at 2:37, 5:68, 7/100ths of a second faster than Camden Gruber, who came into this afternoon session as your provisional pole sitter. Lincoln Larson, another 6/1000ths of a second back. Third fastest for the number 12 machine. Michelle Squarick, fourth fastest. Wes Duchek, Jared Korth, Matteo Azzari, Mitch Lowry, Joey Andrews, and Matt Stretch will round out your top 10. All right, let's make a final call to the grid for our next and final qualifying session of the afternoon. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 6, Formula Atlantic and Formula Continental racers. Please head to the grid. Formula Atlantic and Formula Continental, please head to the grid. Okay, Tom, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with one more qualifying session here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. Stay with us.
Choose joy. Choose the road. Choose your people. Choose your shot. Take it. Choose to get in there. Even better, get out there. That's it. Way out there. Choose your calling. Choose to really care. Choose to go for it. Just choose. We craft cars for those who choose to do more than simply move.
I'll wake up.
You know, one of the most rewarding things about working a race experience event, which I get to do a few times a year, is just seeing the enjoyment. How much people enjoy just getting out there and driving when position doesn't matter, when class doesn't matter, when you're just kind of having fun. And for a lot of us that are very traditional SCCA folks that want to take that victory lap, I think sometimes we forget how the pure joy comes about, and race experience has reintroduced me to that.
Thanks for staying with us here this afternoon from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. It is our last qualifying session of the day. It is Formula Atlantic and Formula Continental. So we've saved, Tom, I think some of the fastest for lastest here, and drivers are out on their pace lap right now. We've already heard of some complications as the first half or so of the track up to turn 8. The racers are all under a full course caution, and it sounded like the 38 machine might have been a little bit off the pace, and some cars went by him or her, and so they're trying to check these things out over in race control now. That's Ethan Alexander in the 38 Formula Continental Van Diemen out of Grafton, Wisconsin, but it doesn't matter now. We're green flag. We've got a little bit less than 25 minutes, about 22 minutes here for qualifying. And the track was definitely drying out for these racers as they went out for their morning qualifying session. And Riley Harris out of Ashland, Ohio in a Van Diemen DPO4, your provisional pole sitter in Formula Atlantic, with Shane Kennett out of Golden, Colorado, second fastest, and James Berlin out of Lakeville, Minnesota, third fastest. In Formula Continental, Brandon Dixon out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama in his citation is your provisional pole sitter, with Gavin Moore second fastest and Bill Johnson third fastest.
I love to see this huge Formula Continental field. 17 cars this weekend in this category, and then in Formula Atlantic, 9 cars have taken to the racetrack. Those are the fastest cars, maybe the fastest we'll see all weekend. They trade back and forth with prototype, which we've already seen 2 groups ago. But for the most part, just lost my train of thought. But for the most part, the Formula Continentals will be quite a bit slower, still absolutely quick, and they're out in their own right, but a little bit closer to that FE2 pace. And then in Formula Atlantics, there's a big mix of cars there. You know, the top cars are certainly some of the fastest, but it is also a bit of a catch-all class. So I've seen some Pro Mazdas out there. There's a couple other different shapes that we've seen in this class that might be a little bit slower, but still in the class and can have their own race, of course. Easiest way to tell them apart is probably the width of the tires. If you see skinny tires, that's a Continental. If you see wide tires, that's an Atlantic. I know that can be a bit difficult to tell apart, but that's the best I got.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one, and also the Continentals, for the most part, you're going to see the air intake, I think, off to the side of the
great point.
of the rear bodywork, whereas the Atlantics typically, much like you think of Formula One cars or Indy cars, that air intake is usually directly over the driver's head. All right, as our drivers are starting their first flying laps here. Actually, I think actually now starting their first flying laps. John Jansen goes to the top of the leaderboard in Formula Continental with a 2:17.695. And over in Formula Atlantic, Shane Kennett with a 2:07.039. 1.3 seconds clear of Riley Harris.
These cars in a similar boat to the prototype and FE2 category that we saw 2 groups ago, where some tire heat is necessary. And in the Formula Atlantics especially, the ceiling on speed is just so high. It can take a little bit of time for both driver and machine to get that momentum and that trust rebuilt, especially since it was damp and wet the last time they were on this racetrack just a little bit ago. We're watching a majority of the Formula Continental field come through turns 6 and 7 into the hurry downs for turn 8. Fastest car, as you mentioned, Shane Kennett at the top. We've yet to see Dudley Fleck or J.R. Smart finish a lap, and I think those are certainly 2 contenders. I know Dudley Fleck has been a perennial front runner at the runoffs the last couple of years, and as I say that, he goes to the top of the board. A 2:05.7 becomes the new pole time in Atlantic.
Yeah, indeed, and Fleck has numerous wins in here at the sprints. He was your Formula Atlantic national champion back in 2024, so just 2 years ago. And He's a retired beer distributor, which you'd never know, Tom, from looking at the fact that it's got light beer from Miller on the side of his on the side of his Formula Atlantic Swift 016.
Shane Kennett though takes the top spot away by 9/10 of a second, 2:04.7. Good duel going between those two early on here. Brandon Dixon, meanwhile, just kind of obliterated everybody on that second flying lap. Now 1.6 seconds up on Formula Continental. John Jansen sits second. Bill Johnson is third. Gavin Moore and Christopher Campanale are Campanale. You know, Greg?
I am not sure.
Okay, we'll find out. But he sits third.
Let me see if he sent us anything with that, and he has not. I would go with we'll be conservative and say Campanale, but I'm sure I'm getting it wrong. And if I do, I apologize. We've got Sydney Burkett in the chat, and I know she is cheering on her father. That is, as you mentioned, David Burkett, who's representing the South Texas border region. He was the prior Southwest Division champ in Sports 2000, also both in Formula Continental and Formula Atlantic this weekend in his Swift 016A. Brandon Dixon at the top of the Continental field here at the moment.
Timing screen, though, is just covered in green. Still early days in this session, and these cars will just get quicker and quicker. Very light on their feet, very light on their tires. I guess a better literal analogy, but it takes a bit of time to build things up, and going quicker and quicker. Yet John Burton LaRue is a bit off cycle of everybody else. He came through, as well as Michael Verisons, running on another section of the racetrack from this chunk of Formula Continentals that we watch right now, but they sit second and third, splitting Brandon Dixon and John Jansen. Dixon still has the provisional pole by 9/10 of a second.
All right, Tom, I'm watching for John McAleer in Formula Atlantic right now at Roseville, Georgia. He did set, he went purple in Sector 4. A little bit off the pace in Sector 1. He did, going down into Turn 5, put in the highest trap speed. He's gone green now in Sector 2, so one more sector to go. McAleer, who raced in the prototype field for quite some time out of the Atlanta region, world land speed record holder at Bonneville. And fastest all classes LAP record at Road Atlanta as well. Formula Atlanta, FRP Formula Atlantic champion in 2025 as well. And if I remember correctly, John, again, Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta being his home track, if I remember correctly, he won both the sprint and the feature races here earlier in the season on the Super Tour.
Just had a nice improvement up to fourth, now within 2 seconds of the pole time, still held by Shane Kennett in Formula Atlantic. Dudley Fleck is second. Riley Harris is third on an improvement that time through as well. But it's kind of a top two and a second two here in Atlantic, as the top two separated by 0.2 of a second. Then it's 1.5 seconds back to Harris and McAleer, who are within 0.4 of one another. That said, McAleer just set the fastest Sector 4 to start his next lap. Dudley Fleck setting the fastest Sector 3, which completes the qualifying lap using this alternate timing loop. Riley Harris has all green sectors, needs to find north of 1.5 seconds for pole, but he will come across the start-finish line any moment now in the Atlantic, number 17. Working Sector 3, that relatively short run from the exit of the kink to underneath that gantry that hangs out over the exit of turn 13.
And Michael Verison's watch here is he just set a personal best in Sector 4. And he's actually a little bit off the pace of in Sector 1 of both LaRue ahead and Dixon behind. but we'll see how things play out. Of course, Michael Verison, 7-time SCCA national champion in Formula V, made the move a number of years ago over to Formula Continental. He's out of Burlington, Wisconsin, racing in a Van Diemen, and still waiting to get his Sector 1 lap times. Let me see if I can find the number 65 machine on track.
I think our main live timing may be frozen, Greg. I just clicked over to Race Monitor.
Right.
And John McAleer is actually up to the provisional pole now in Formula Atlantic. A 2:04.2 is your new top time over Shane Kennett. That's 0.5 of a second advantage to John McAleer in the 68. Great lap for him. Shane Kennett now down to third as Dudley Fleck comes across and jumps into the 2:03s. Now 0.6 up on John McAleer for the front row. Riley Harris has slipped back to fourth over J.R. Smart in fifth.
Yeah, and Fleck with over 0.6 of a second on McAleer. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Here, as as we were talking in the Continental, where Verison's about almost a full second back from John LaRue. All right, Tom, let's do this. We're just about halfway, maybe even a little bit more than halfway through our qualifying session here to round out the day. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. And we'll catch the end of this day's activities here at Road America, and we'll tell you about what we got coming up the rest of the weekend. Stay with us.
What does it mean to be built with Summit? It means you're hitting the autocross or open road with confidence. Because built with Summit means you're using parts from the top names in performance, priced to make your project affordable. And it's all backed by trusted tech expertise and blazing fast shipping. Summit Racing Equipment. Let's build it together. SummitRacing.com.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
If you like what you see today, become part of the action by joining the Sports Car Club of America. Whether you want to drive, flag, organize, officiate, have fun with cars, or meet 65,000 enthusiast friends, SCCA offers plenty to feed your motorsports obsession. Ask someone trackside about how to get involved, or visit SCCA.com for more information.
Welcome back to the National Park of Speed and the 71st consecutive WeatherTech Chicago Region June Sprints. I'm Greg Ginsburg. He's Tom O'Gorman. And with now just about 9 minutes remaining here in qualifying, John LaRue, your provisional pole sitter in Formula Continental. He's got half a second now on Brandon Dixon, and who's moved up second fastest, just turned in his fastest lap of the qualifying session. Michael Verison's now falling to third. Over in Formula Atlantic, Shane Kennett just puts in the fastest lap of the session, faster than anybody out here in the number 63 Swift, a 2:03.034. He is now a half second clear of Dudley Fleck. John McAleer, who decided to take to the pit lane during our break, has decided to call it a day. He is third fastest. And so, Tom, real quick, let's do a little bit of housekeeping here, if we can, and then we'll get back to the action. Again, this is our very last session of the day, but we are going to be back bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. That's 9 a.m. Eastern, if my math is correct, and I know I've had issues with math today. We're going to wrap up qualifying with our remaining 3 groups, and then we go racing. We're going to head out with our very first race group of the day, Spec Miata, at approximately 9:45 Central Time tomorrow. And besides Spec Miata, 8 more races, all 25 minutes in length tomorrow, and then, of course, we do it all again on Sunday. Start time, once again, 8 a.m. Central Time.
It'll be nice to start off tomorrow with qualifying for the Super Touring and Touring groups. Then we get Big Bore out, GT1, GT2, and Touring 1 cars. And then we end qualifying with our largest race group, who effectively have not qualified yet. Their session was cut short for an incident that Spec Racer Ford. Nearly 60 cars entered there, and I don't think any of them got a lap after the session was cut short. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, they had an issue on track on, I believe, the very first flying lap of their qualifying, and so all of our Spec Racer Ford racers are, well, they've got times based on racing in the wet, and it is supposed to be dry tomorrow, so they will qualify in the morning, and then they will race in the afternoon here at Road America. All right, so as we've got now about 6.5 minutes remaining, let's see, I think we had a few more racers take to the pit lane, but notable still on track, Michael Verison's now coming under braking into turn number 5, and I think, Tom, I'm trying to see, Tom, if our timing and scoring has decided to pick up again, and I think it may have. So let's see here, as believe.
I'm still seeing it on Race Monitor, and it's Brandon Dixon at the top of Formula Continental by a 10th or so over John LaRue. That's a really good effort there. Really close stuff at the top of Formula Continental. Yes. And Dudley Fleck also went quicker last 2 laps ago now, down to a 2:03.4. So he's now within a half second of Shane Kennett's pole time to start side by side on the front row come race time tomorrow afternoon.
So the answer is no, our other timing and scoring system hasn't recovered yet. All right, let's, we now hit the 5-minute mark. Brian Tomasi turned in his fastest lap of the session. He now moves up to 4th fastest in Formula Continental. He is out of Elgin, Ohio, in his Van Diemen RF01. And then Bill Johnson, 5th fastest.
I also just saw Shane Kennett come across the line. He goes a little bit slower, but he is still on the racetrack, now working lap number 9 over Dudley Fleck, who I believe is also still out there. They have the advantage now by about another 6/10 over John McAleer and Riley Harris. J.R. Smart and Rob Radman, those top 6 there in Formula Atlantic, are all faster than the Formula Continental, but Brandon Dixon, car number 7, 7th fastest in the sessions. That gives you an idea. I mean, these Formula Continentals are proper quick race cars as well. Knocking on the 2-minute 10, 2-minute 12, really, limit here at Road America.
There is the 96 car and the 14. The 96 being Brian Tomasi, who is sitting 4th in Continental, takes his car to the pit lane. And we've got a lot of racers now, Tom, coming up the pit lane and deciding to call it a session. The number 18 car of Gavin Moore, another one of our Formula Continentals. He's out of Monroe, Michigan. 7th fastest. Looks like his session is done. The 14 of David Ott, out of Elkhart Lake, currently 11th fastest in Formula Continental. He's got the team doing tire pressure checks and tire temp checks now as well. Trying to track to see if we still have the 17 of Riley Harris out on track. Harris currently 4th fastest in Formula Atlantic, and and with McAleer with the car behind the wall, maybe an opportunity for him to move up in the order. Currently, though, about 2 seconds off the pace of the 68 car.
J.R. Smart has improved his personal best, 5th in Formula Atlantic, 2 laps in a row, has yet to find a position for it, but has just been inching his way further and further into the conversation towards that podium trio up at the top, Kennett, Fleck, and McAleer. Smart sits about 5 seconds off the total overall pole, but he only needs to find 1.2 seconds to improve his position over Riley Harris. And it looks like Dudley Fleck has also completed a lap since we last talked, a little bit slower as well. So I think we might have sort of hit that threshold in Formula Atlantic right now for both Kennett and Fleck. They're right on top of each other, 4.5 tenths apart. But neither has improved with 2 more attempts each since they set their fastest lap.
And Rob Radman in the red number 5. Pro Formula Mazda Atlantic, you're finished, I believe, P3 at the 2021 sprints. He just turned in his fastest lap of the session at a 2:12.575. Unfortunately, that's still only good enough for 6th and seems to be, I think, the best of the rest here in Atlantic, Tom, as he's about 4.5 seconds back from J.R. Smart's best times.
Yep. Couple of meaningful improvements, though. Michael Verison's first. He still sits 3rd in Formula Continental, but a 2:13.8 now brings him within 8 tenths of the overall pole, the provisional pole in Formula Continental for Brandon Dixon, who still holds that spot. Dudley Fleck also finally improved after banging his head on the door just a couple laps.
Over and over again.
Now
yeah.
It picks up 2 tenths and now is within 2 tenths of Shane Kennett.
All right, so less than a minute remaining, and now heading to the pit lane is John LaRue. It's as though he has given up on the charge here to try to get onto the Continental pole ahead of Brandon Dixon. LaRue's going to finish up his session at a 2:13.226, 0.13 of a second off of what is for at least another 20 seconds provisional pole time in Formula Continental. Mark Hutchison turns in his fastest lap of the session in the number 6 Van Diemen RF00. He's out of Mukwonago. Let me see if I can get this right. Mukwonago, Wisconsin. And somebody might have to tell me if there is an emphasis on a particular syllable there. But he is currently 5th fastest, and he probably turned that lap faster than I tried pronouncing his hometown.
I bought it. Mukwonago. That makes sense.
There we go.
All right, Dudley Fleck again improving by a 10th. He's just missed it, and that's the blue card reporting to the pit lane. 0.132 will be the difference between Shane Kennett and Dudley Fleck at the front of Formula Atlantic tomorrow. Or, well, ending today. They'll be side by side tomorrow at the green flag.
All right, I've had a native Wisconsinite tell me that it's in Mukwonago, Wisconsin. So I know at least we've got at least one person listening to us, Tom. Yeah. Thank you, Eric Mueller, voice of Road America. All right, so checkered flag is out, and as we saw Fleck come onto the pit lane, he had taken the checkered flag on that final lap, which, as you said, moved him to within 0.13 of a second of Shane Kennett. So let's take a look here as we wrap things up for the day. In Continental, Brandon Dixon is your pole sitter. He's out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, with a time of 2:13.094, 0.13 of a second clear of John LaRue. Michael Verisons will start 3rd. Brian Tomasi and Mark Hutchison will round out your top 5. Over in Formula Atlantic, Shane Kennett takes the pole with Dudley Fleck 0.13 behind. And Tom, I should mention that, oh, well, you know what? Big change here in Continental. I spoke way too soon. Well, actually, no change in the order. Brandon Dixon turned in his fastest lap on this last lap, and he stretches the margin to over a half second back to John LaRue, and I was just about to make the point that the gap from first to second in both Continental and Atlantic was 0.132 seconds. That no longer the case. Shane Kennett, your pole sitter in Atlantic. Dudley Fleck, second fastest. John McAleer, a second back from Fleck, third fastest. Riley Harris and J.R. Smart will round out the top 5. So tomorrow morning, we wrap up qualifying here at the National Park of Speed. And Tom told you we've got Super Touring Light, Super Touring Under in our touring classes. Then the big ground pounders here, and we've got a huge field of GT2 cars to wet your whistle. And then we wrap up qualifying with Spec Racer 4 Gen 3. And then at 9:45 a.m. Central Time, we go racing. And we've got 9 races for you here to interest you, and then we do it all again on Sunday. Tom, any thoughts before we wrap for the day?
I'm just looking forward to racing. I think all 9 race groups have the potential and the likelihood of showing off some of the best that this national level of SCCA club racing has to offer. I think you mentioned it just now, but to reiterate, 9:45 tomorrow is the first time we throw a green flag for wheel-to-wheel competition, and then it's nothing but 18 races in a row for the rest of the weekend. Qualifying is going to be fun, but I'm ready for racing.
I am as well. All right, so for Tom O'Gorman, for our director, Jordan Worth, Brendan Kazmarek, our producer, I'm Greg Ginsberg, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for joining us today, and you better join us tomorrow. We'll see you. Have a great night.